Creepers.
Yes.
Where'd you get them beavers?
Creepers.
Louis Armstrong version.
Hello, welcome to A Stab in the Dark. And as you may have guessed, this week we are doing the first Jeepers Creepers film, 2001. This was released and filmed earlier that century.
Or possibly...
Sorry.
That might
Who
be
knows
technically
when?
correct. The best kind of correct.
Filmed shortly after Y2K.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Jeepers Creepers, somewhat controversial for some obvious reasons, and there's a lot going on with this film as well, so we're going to talk more specifically about the film and the making of than anything else, but let's get our takes on it. I'll start this time. 45 minutes is really great. It's kind of the opposite. We did The Mist not long ago, and how I kind of like the second half of The Mist, but not the first half.
Yeah.
It kind of swaps around on this one for me. I actually really, really do love the first sort of half of this film.
Yeah,
And then
when
the
it's
second
more
half
straight
is a bit-
horror.
Is a bit...
Yeah.
But,
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
There's going to be
Mike,
3 different opinions.
Yeah, go
here.
for it.
I love this movie, start to finish.
cool.
I think...
How does it feel to be wrong?
No. There's a tonal shift, right? The way I'm viewing, the way you're looking at it, where there's a good half and a bad half, is like people that only like half of From Dusk Till Dawn, where the tone changes completely and it goes from a Tarantino movie to a Rodriguez movie. This changes from straight horror to kind of campy creature feature at a certain point,
Yes.
and both are highly entertaining. I would probably agree that the first half is stronger than the second half. But I think the second half is a whole lot of fun, and it's filled with these set pieces, each one as fun as the last.
Look,
So-
I don't hate it. I just think it could have been better, and there are production reasons for that, which we'll get into, and there are reasons also that are teased that there was a different ending originally. Like there was a whole
Oh, yeah, I heard about a
big
different ending.
sequence,
Yeah.
which sounds epic to me, and I would have loved to
Yeah.
see it. So we'll get into that as we go through as well.
The budget got slashed in some kind of
Yeah,
way, didn't
exactly.
it? Yeah.
And there was like a huge train scene and like big explosion thing happening in it, and it never actually got to that. So I would have loved to have seen that. And I always found the second half of this film definitely takes a shift, and I don't know if it's a good shift.
I love the shift. I think it's I think it's deliberately over the top and campy. That's why you've got the cats.
Yeah.
And you got like the bit when he's on top of the cop car and you can see it from behind. And
Yeah.
and obviously off camera he just chucks the fucking head in front into their car. And when he's like, the billboard behind him says something like "so damn delicious" as he's like.
I do actually like that bit. I do
At
like
first
that bit.
it seems like he's kissing the head and then he's pulling the tongue out.
I like that shot.
Like it's so tongue in cheek throughout that second half. Unintentional 10 out of 10 pun there. But yeah, I think it's so fun. Just as fun as the first 40 minutes was kind of thrilling and scary.
And with that, let's go over to David
Resident
McDonald,
Jeepers Creepers
PhD.
hater.
What does he have to say, Doctor?
It's okay. It's okay. Okay, the first...
Name another movie that you'd say is okay, that it's on the same quality as. Can't think of one other okay movie.
I was gonna, maybe The Boy's a bit harsh.
The Boy. Now we know what okay means. It means terrible.
No, I find it quite disappointing, to be honest. I think the first act, especially, is really well executed. Like, I think, he wears his influence with that on his sleeve. Like, I think we'll talk about more about the story that inspired it, or at least allegedly inspired it, because he hasn't admitted it, has he?
What?
The true...
Has he actually been asked about it in interviews?
All the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the true crime story that inspired.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I think that first act is well executed. And I know that he really wanted to make a creature feature because he loves. Was it the thing from the Black Lagoon that he loves?
Yeah, and he grew up with these things: Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
Yeah. And
massive in the 50s.
And I actually like the idea of him like combining kind of a true crime story and then just turning it into a monster film. but I just really feel
That is exactly what you've got, though.
Yeah, no.
And by he, you mean Victor Salva, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think the execution in the second half is bad. It just doesn't work for me at all.
Right.
It just does not work for me at all. Like I barely even like maintain my interest, to be honest. It just,
yeah.
And
I'm in disbelief at that. I think it's
that,
entertaining, even if you don't think it's necessarily executed very well.
I just
filled with memorable bits, like the cat lady and the
I agree with
face,
him on that,
and the bit in the police station where he comes down and bites a hole through the cop's body, and
it does
the bit where you go along the prison and there's people shaking and scared of the monster in the thing. It's filled with these little bits and segments that are, I think, very, very
yeah.
nice.
But like I think all of that is in kind of like the second act, like the final part of the film. I barely remember, honestly, and I only watched it like the other day.
I would agree that it's very late on, but I would agree that the ending is not the best part of it. Probably the weakest part of it, i.e. the moment from when it decides that it wants Derry rather than Trish.
Yeah,
it's a little bit weak when it's hostage taken in front of the window, and then it does the predator thing that I don't really like either.
So I don't mind that, funnily enough. I don't mind it.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, my problem isn't with the effects. I think at that point it kind of pushes it a little bit too far, and it's not as fun as some of the choices earlier on that I would be against, but I just think they're fun.
I think it just kind of fizzles out for me in a way, and then when I did find out that there was originally an ending that they basically couldn't afford, and they had to more or less make it up on the go, right? That made sense to me, and I was like, I almost wish that someone else got another chance to give it a go.
Yeah,
because the idea is quite cool, and part of it is that I really like the setup, and in a way, wish that the first act was just continued for the whole film. I respect the idea of him transforming it to a creature feature. I just don't think it worked. Justin Long was great, of course. I really like the character of Trish.
Yeah,
I find it like
Gina Phillips.
Yeah, I find her like quite self-aware in a way. Like she's constantly referencing horror films, which I find really fun.
But then there reaches a certain point in the movie where she's in denial, basically, and she's just trying to shut up. What's her name? The psychic woman that comes along. So she does kind of change a little bit towards the end.
Yes. Yeah.
And I wasn't so sure about a denial turn either, but I did like her in the when she's basically being like Scream-like
in the first act. Yeah, very like Scream, because it's very post-Scream, isn't it? Like especially again in the first act, I think this is strongest. I agree with you that it's not consistent all the way through. I like the psychic character. I don't know if it was deliberate or not, but I was thinking of Poltergeist with that.
Yeah.
And
it's an established trope, isn't it? Basically,
I know. Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a tired one, and I'm not so sure I'm that positive about her inclusion in the movie either. I think it would have been stronger without.
I really like her, actually. I like her. Yeah,
it's a bit too knock off Stephen King for me. The introduction of her character.
I don't mind her character. I just always thought there was more. That if they'd had said maybe not Jeepers Creepers 2, because I actually quite enjoy that as well, but the Jeepers Creepers 3, if it had carried on the story of Trish and the psychic rather than what they did,
like a reboot,
not a reboot, just a continuation, or maybe
like
it's 23
sequel,
years later,
a direct sequel,
and they're after the creeper to get revenge. Like I think that was an original concept at one point.
I thought originally that they were going to bring back Trish and her,
but that would have made more sense why they introduced that psychic character as a physical being later on in the film, if that was going to be another thing.
I think as it stands, she's only really there to just offer exposition.
Although while I say that, I know Victor Salva did see this film as a standalone and didn't really want to do Jeepers Creepers 2 for a while.
But it was a surprise success, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So let's go over the plot then, while we've got everyone on board for this film. And let's start with Trish Jenner and her brother Derry are travelling home from college for spring break. As they drive through the Florida countryside, an old truck violently tailgates them but eventually passes. During their drive, they discuss an urban legend of the road they are currently travelling, of a prom couple who disappeared 23 years ago. Their vehicle was recovered without the head of the prom girl, Darla.
Yeah, I love the banter between them. It's
They have great chemistry.
Yeah, the brother and sister kind of you're hers and all this kind of stuff, and they're kind of inside jokey stuff going on. I think it's good characterization.
I think so as well. Like you really feel like a fly on the wall in a real brother sister relationship.
Yeah, and it's a good dynamic that you don't see so often as well. Usually they're romantic
in a relationship,
romantic interests, or like the couples that are on the rocks, or they're.
It's funny. It's an underused thing to have a brother and sister. That chemistry is very unique.
You don't see that very often, and it's very well written in this movie. I don't know whether Victor Salva has siblings.
Yes, he has a sister, and he does say that he wrote the character of Trish with his sister.
That would explain why it's so believable.
And he sees the character of Dari as himself. That's the character he most associates himself with. So so it's kind of that relationship is him and his sister in the form of these two. Like Gina Phillips, her portrayal of this character, she wasn't actually the first choice to take on the role, but Salvo says that there was a really annoying agent who the person was in pole position to get this part, and
they blew it for the actor.
Blew it for the actor because they refused to do screen tests with other actors. So they carried on looking, and they were like, "We're not going to deal with you." And then Phillips came along. She did an audition, and then when her and Justin came together, immediately there was this chemistry, this brother-sister chemistry, which really worked, and they played off each other, and they actually became really close. So it worked, and they immediately found their siblings, their brother sister for the movie in those two there and then, and it definitely works.
It works very well throughout. I think it's an entirely believable relationship, well written and well acted. I think it's one of the movie's early strengths.
Yeah, there are two. The license plate game, and also the and we can come back to the license plate game later. But
Gay Fever.
Gay Fever, gay forever.
Sexy forever.
Sexy forever.
That was mine.
And then they look over at them and sexy forever, huh?
And also they have that like insult game when they're not allowed to repeat. And it's just the
butt sniffer. We already had ass sniffer. That's the same.
Yeah, and that's all you need. But you really feel like that they've had an entire lifetime together. Just from that. Yeah.
And that's some of down to their portrayal as well, because the script is what it is. But Gina Phillips actually wrote hundreds of pages about Trish. So
I heard she kept a diary, didn't she?
She kept a diary. Yeah. She would write down lists of Trish's favorite music, what she liked to watch on TV.
Yeah,
added her own additional characterization.
Yeah. So she was able to really mold, and she wouldn't just go, "What would Trish do here?" She's literally knows off the spot. Trish,
she wrote the book on it. Yeah.
Trish is literally her in this scenario that she's playing in. And have they played this game before? Well, obviously, who's won, who's lost, and it comes across. And I think they did a really, really good job together to do that. And in fact, they would actually rehearse on their off days. So any days off filming, they would be rehearsing in the hotel.
Yeah, they'd be where brother and sistering away.
And rehearsing the lines, which Salvo said any film he's worked on since, no one has done that. They're the only two that have ever gone to those lengths to portray.
They were very early in their career.
I was going to ask,
so I think it might be
Justin Long's one of his first, surely.
It was his first leading,
was it?
Top 2 cast kind of thing.
Well,
he'd been in movies before, but not as one of the main roles. Yeah.
There's an audio commentary track on this Blu-ray, which I've got, which is in front if you're listening. And there's a single one with the director, and there's one with the two leads and the director. And they start talking about near the end, how thankful he is to Salvo for the opportunity to take this leading role, and the fact that, bizarrely, we'll get into it more later, but the Francis Ford Coppola connection, and that he basically made it so they could just get the best fit for each role rather than having to get a famous face in, and that helped them find the right people for the role.
We should all be thankful for that as well, because Justin Long is great in
he might be
horror movies.
The Scream King, I would say.
Yeah, that is what people say.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, I would say it's Bruce Campbell. But without this, he could still be relegated to basically just being a side character
in a comedy
Kevin
film,
Smith movies and stuff.
or Dodgeball and stuff. Yeah.
So this bit alongside the bit now with the plot where they say they later stumble on the same truck parked next to an abandoned church.
Yeah. Oh, the bit with the truck approaching before they see it.
That's
Great as well.
Oh, that is fantastic.
That's my favorite shot in the whole film. And they redo it again later, don't they? But it's a fake out, I think.
Yes, but that is a great shot. You said that was like Hitchcocky, and that's Hitchcock.
Yeah, there's very kind of like oldie worldy suspense filming, especially in this first like 45 minutes. And there's a lot of great shots as well. There's another one that's you constantly go back to looking up the tube, and you can only see the kind of
when was the ring?
Light.
The Ring. When did that come out?
You mean the American one or the Japanese one?
The Japanese one. That was 2001.
No, wasn't the remake 2001?
Maybe.
Wasn't the
it was late 98.
Yep.
Yeah. So do you reckon it was a deliberate reference to that, or just?
Possibly. It's been a long time since I've seen The Ring, but even then, there's a lot. There's another great shot the other way where he's in spotlight at the bottom of the tunnel as well. And usually I don't like slow mo in my movies, but like I actually kind of like the slow motion in this movie when he's falling and he does like an actual clatter and it shakes his body. I like that as well.
That is good.
There's a lot of good directorial choices in this movie.
So yeah, as I was saying, they go past the driver who's dumping something in this pipe, and there's a really creepy moment where he just looks, where he stares at them.
Another great shot.
That's a great shot.
See, it lingers quite a lot as the camera's moving.
And
exactly
like he cuts such a striking silhouette, and honestly, like this is part of my
very well costume designed, outfitted.
Like you know what they say about like memorable characters being recognizable in silhouette, and I really think that character achieves that. And again, this is part of my kind of disappointment, because in a way I'd almost like this film to just continue in this way.
At this point, he's kind of like the Undertaker, the wrestler.
Yeah, he does look like
he's very Undertaker.
But in a horror movie scenario, and you think the Undertaker would have made a great like sort of slasher villain or something. Yeah. So at this point, he is that. We don't know about the supernatural element to this character at this point in time. But they see the bodies wrapped in bloodstained sheets going to the large pipe. The driver notices them giving chase and forcing them off the road. There's some really good like sort of trivia bits here with on the first day of shooting with the big van. They went into the back. It was so well done. They went into the back of the A car and like dented it and destroyed the best version of that car they had on the first day of shooting. And so they were like, "Oh my god, what have we done?"
It was like an actual kind of piece of shit. The truck as well, wasn't it? It wasn't made to look rusty and messed up. It was actually kind. I mean, they might have enhanced it, but but it was like rusty and old and.
It's an old van. It's an old flatbed truck. So they actually built the back of it. So the van bit isn't real.
They horrified it.
Yeah,
it's more of a horror film truck.
And
with the horn as well, which is like a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. This is an important thing with this film, right? Is that the van and the car have their own personality. They are characters within themselves.
They're very distinctive as well. Distinctive choices of vehicles. Even their vehicle is like, this is set in modern day in 2001, right? And they've got like a, I don't know, 50s or 60s Cadillac. Yeah,
manual,
quite
stick shift as well.
With the
I mean, like the entire opening act feels like a film from a different age, though. Even the very, very first shot of the film when the car is driving in around the corner, it feels like something you'd see in like Night of the Living Dead. It feels like a really an old style, or like a Hitchcock film.
It's quite Hitchcockian to have, because it does flip the camera around a lot with a lot of different shots, but you do get one quite a few times that's looking through the windscreen at those two.
The classic Hitchcock,
and that's extremely Hitchcocky, and that just takes you right back to Psycho, right?
There's some just things that happened with this film, like quite naturally, which work really well and to its advantage. The fact that this was shot in Florida, specifically in Florida, because it's after Texas, it's the second biggest cattle raising state in the US. So when they were thinking about a location, they're like, where can we go? Where's going to be open spaces? No telegraph poles, no phone lines going anywhere. They wanted to look bare, but also enough people that you would see a couple of cars every hour.
Ridiculously rural.
Yeah. So they found it, and they said it was actually way harder than they expected it to be to do that. But so that when they used this location, it was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. There was a huge heat wave, and it's over 100, and you can see them sweating in the car, like when they're going through this incredible heat wave, and they literally were doing that.
Yeah, I imagine the creeper almost passed out in all of the prosthetics and stuff he had to wear in that heat. Specifically,
that scene where he's on top of the car with the cop and then like heads him and stuff. Apparently, when they shot that bit, he leaned down and there's like a tidal wave of sweat coming out of his costume.
That famous Evil Dead 2 trivia about his brother, who was the old woman. And then there's a shot when it like all the sweat just comes out of the eye of the old lady, and it's so like a river of sweat coming out of the eye. Yeah. Was did they mention Jewel or the car in any way?
Yeah. So
there's definitely an influence there. The truck design, let alone the way it interacts with the other car.
So Victor Salva says in documentaries and in the commentary that he did it. And when he did it and looked back at the footage, he went, "Oh my god, I've made Jewel! I've just literally done Jewel."
Yeah, and literally 30 years after, isn't it?
Yeah,
Jewel's 71
because he grew up. So he basically he grew up on Spielberg. So Jewel and Something Evil. He says that these things were subconscious. So he says they're subconscious, and that was his influence there. But he didn't realize it. But when he actually looked at it, he went, "Holy shit, I've done Jewel."
Yeah,
that was kind of.
But that's great. I wish we had more kind of road movies with.
Yeah, I can't really think of any after Joyride, which is about the same time, wasn't it?
And then you got car horror with the car and Christine, which is tangentially related.
There's an episode.
There's not many more.
There's that Bryan Cranston episode of X-Files. That's really good, where they can't slow the car down, otherwise his head explodes.
That's a Vince Gilligan, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
So that's another standout one of that. Actually, yeah, I mean, this was probably my first. This horror movie was very influential on me with horror movies in general. Like this one over almost every other horror movie except for maybe Chainsaw Massacre and Scream. Was the one that I remember watching earliest, and I also remember this being the one I watched with my dad.
Really?
Randomly. So my dad likes the first half of this film too. Yeah. So he has a
well, that mirrors quite exactly my experience. This is one of the earliest horror movies, as in horror movies made for adults.
Yeah.
I ever saw. Possibly the first I ever saw with my parents, proper horror movie. The difference being they love this movie start to finish, and it's one of their favourite horror movies of all time. But yeah, I think there might be an element of rose-tinted glasses, but I tried to watch it completely objectively and purely as if it was the first time and still loved it. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, but this was like my first... I fell in love with the concept of a car being chased by a big truck or something from this movie. I think I watched this before I watched Duel.
Yeah, I definitely did as well.
But the idea of that and how underutilized it is as just a trope in movies, and that this could be a thing more often than it actually is. I'm like, oh man, because you're almost starved of this stuff. It's like this would make a really
quite
good trope
interesting.
Again.
There's when you're on an open highway in the middle of nowhere, there are a dime a dozen where you pick up a spooky hitchhiker and something goes wrong. But they're
not just pursued by
few and far between that there's another vehicle harassing you.
I guess the problem is like, what do you do with it that isn't Jewel? Like, how do you make something new in that space?
Well, Joyride did it pretty well. Yeah. Roadkill, if you're in the UK.
Correct, but I wouldn't put that on the same level anywhere near of Jewel.
No,
and I also wouldn't say it's as good as Jeepers Creepers either.
Although it's again one of my favourite.
I like it more.
Films.
I like it more than Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah. I love Joyride is one of my favourite horror movies of all time. Yeah. I think Jeepers Creepers is also one of my favourite horror movies of all time.
I haven't seen it in about a decade, so maybe we should do an episode on it.
Yeah.
But I would think that if this entire movie
that's two brothers as well. That's it's another sibling relationship. In Joyride.
Yeah. But if the whole movie was kind of that, I mean, if it was a serial killer and not a monster, right? It probably would have been majority runtime on the road, I imagine.
Yeah, it would have. I'm realizing it probably would have just been Joyride.
I feel like it would have been Joyride or Jewel, and that probably would have been an unfavourable comparison to Jewel at least. So I feel like that might have hurt the movie. Because even though it's an hour and a half movie, I don't know what more they could have done than they already did with that concept in the first.
Yeah,
50 minutes.
like I said, I respect the idea in a way of transforming genres in the middle, and I love it. You know, in other examples like From Dusk to Dawn, like you mentioned, I got nothing against that. Actually, I quite like it. And
it's like two movies in one.
Yeah, and I love the idea of him being like, "Fuck it, I'm going to take this one idea, I'm going to take this other thing that I really want to make, I'm going to shove them together." I love the idea of doing that. When you're a writer director, like why would you not? You know what I mean? And you know, especially making a creature feature was so important to him.
Which is another genre we're kind of starved of as well.
I really loved it, and in a way, especially finding out in a way like how authentic that want was. I really wanted to like it. It just didn't work.
I think it's a damning sort of thing to think about the fact that I watched lots of things for this, documentaries, audio commentaries, all sorts, and all of them really have focus on that first sort of 45 minutes into an hour in where we start to reveal the creeper. Not much of that really focuses on that hospital scene. It's very much a sort of okay, well, then nothing big happens, you know, nothing experimental as such apart from the wall crawling bit like Spider-Man. That happens in there.
Well, I mean, almost all of the iconic scenes do happen in the first 45 minutes. And I'm a lover of the entire movie, but I would still admit that the first 45 minutes is the strongest portion of the movie.
But there's some really obvious, when you look at it, reasons why this first bit is so good. Part of it is the people they had on cinematography as well. So do you know some of the names? So I'm not very good with this name. Don E. Fultonroy. He did Terminator 2.
Bloody hell, really?
Yeah. So he's the guy who came up with the idea to have the van have the angle on top of it, you know, when it's that camera angle from the top. He also added the left one on the left. So, so you had the angle, the bird of prey angle from above, which was the shakiness and the speed and power. You had the low camera angle with a wide angle lens. So when it looks like it's pushing the car in front of it, and you get the wide angle lens, you can see the whole thing. It really looks aggressive, and it makes it to look Jordan looks dramatic. So the car in front is very dramatic, and then you've got the third camera angle by the tire. So you've got that view as well, and it twisting and turning, and
it's very well executed and very involving as well. In a lot of these kind of movies, it's very easy to give away the fact that the film is sped up, right, and they're not really traveling at the speeds that they were expected.
Yeah, sometimes it's laughably obvious.
Yeah. But I love that bird of prey. That angle where it's on top of the van, like speeding up to them, it's like, whoa, that's some serious.
Yeah, and when it comes in with the roar of the engine and the horn and stuff, it's quite a it's
kind of demonic. The horn itself is pretty demonic, and like you imagine that behind you, like, oh my god.
And it would be a terrifying experience for anyone.
Yeah,
like it could be any character, you know, it could be two gangsters or two like ridiculously hard, powerful people in that car. Some maniac in a truck's like harassing you on the road. You can't do anything. Like, you're afraid of being rammed off and crashing into a tree, right? It's a scary situation.
But yeah, having someone like Fultonroy who worked on big blockbusters seriously helped. And if you do give a bit of credit to director Salvo, if you want to give him credit for something, it's the fact that he would storyboard everything. He would do a lot of work beforehand. But when it came to the day, if something worked better or someone had an idea, he would listen and take it on board and then do that and work it in and weave it. He said it's one thing. It's like it's like your child to have all the storyboards and what you want, and then you've got to let it fly the nest, and it becomes something more and its own thing when it's given to actors and cinematographers and producers and everyone involved. And it becomes its own thing. So he was quite good at being able to just sort of let go,
receptive to other voices in the creative process.
And he does love the two lead actors, and says that he found a point in the movie where he didn't see them as a hindrance but a help, and that they were giving his script, which he was like, some of the lines, they made it, and said you can't underestimate how much they made the lines and everything work and out of a dodgy script, like as such, as he said. So there's some interesting stuff within that. And then you got Bennett Salve, who was the composer. There's some really good stuff, and this is the biggest, most bombastic sound. So he experimented with the sound of this film. So there would be smaller orchestras for some elements. There'd be more strings and more drums and all sorts for others. And this is the biggest bit. So it comes in with a bang. It's basically the loudest orchestra moment.
And the music changes with the tone of the movie as well, quite interestingly. There's definitely a point post when he's sniffing the clothes and stuff where the music becomes overly kind of dramatic in a creature feature-esque kind of like 50s over stylized way. It's not trying to be scary or suspenseful with the music anymore. It's trying to be almost camp and over the top, and that transition's handled quite well.
All right, let's continue on with this plot. Let's keep on going through. And we got, we've just left them off where they've been chased and forced off the road by the creeper. With the driver gone, Darry convinces Trish to return to the church, which I actually like as a scene. I like this sort of convincing her to go back. Because you're screaming, like, do not just go to safety. But they're inherently good people in the end of it.
And it is quite a believable convincing as well.
Yeah.
Like, she does quite a lot of good face acting when he says something along the lines of,
What if it was you?
Yeah. There's like a visible reaction in her face that's quite believable.
Is this when she says, you know that part in scary movies where someone does something stupid and you hate them for it?
Yeah, well, that's when he's going to climb through down the pipe, isn't it? But But I mean, she was right.
Well, yeah.
Because what was he going to see? Adding that, like, how tall is he? Like 5'8" or something. Yeah. What's he going to see with that extra 5'8" down the pipe when the pipe's like, I don't know, 20 foot long?
Yeah.
Do you think they're basically just lampshading it then? They're like, no one's going to actually do this, but if we make fun of it ourselves, then
I think so. I mean, it's Scream Light once again, right? It's playing with the trope while also using the trope to further the narrative, right?
I don't know if it's like as well done as Scream. It's not quite as justified.
That's why I'm adding the word light. Because, you know, nothing's going to do it as well as Scream, apart from New Nightmare. So, yeah.
All right, so where you were, you got Darry now being held by his feet. And then you get the bit with the rat, and he's like,
he's like having a full bone, like, shake
Some
off.
Some people just hate rats. She drops him, and we've alluded to that.
And he blames her. After he's just like writhed around like an absolute maniac.
I would have just left him there. Like, he deserves it.
Yeah.
Well, you're a nice person.
He does deserve it.
Yeah, and then you get that nice shot, as you were saying, where it's slow motion.
And he crashes and it kind of ripples through his body. Yeah. It's very well done. And he's in that spotlight.
Yeah.
And there's quite a while goes before he actually looks around. Yeah.
Yeah, then we see that he finds a dying young man with stitches running down his stomach and numerous corpses sewn to the walls and ceiling, including those of the missing prom couple with Darla's head sewn back on. Darry locates the exit and he and Trish flee the scene to seek help at a nearby diner.
There's a
lot to go on here,
This whole sequence underground is like brilliantly executed.
Very good.
Like,
very
it's really good.
When he ties his shoelace and he holds the in his armpit the flashlight and you flip behind him. The body's on the wall. Very well telegraphed.
I love that it's kind of like his eyes adjusting down there.
Yeah,
and you're so focused on that. I always like find that bit is revealed at the same time. It's like I find that I am revealed to it at the same time as Darry is.
Yeah, it's a very believable kind of slow escalation of problems, right? He deals with the first body, then he sees 2 or 3, 4 sacks, then he sees like implements and vials and creepy shit, and then it slowly is revealed that it's a very believable kind of like step by step to him realizing the true horrors of the area he's in. And also when he unwraps that first body is the first bit of Justin Long shock face we get. And I love like the Justin Long shock face throughout this movie is 10 out of 10. It's like Vince McMahon level in the video we watched earlier. It's amazingly sustained. Like you'll be looking at his face for like 2 or 3 seconds, then it'll pan to some more horror, and then we'll get more like Justin Long shocked as hell. It's great. Love it.
Well, that kid also, he auditioned. He was just a local actor a local kid they auditioned. He was apparently really good in his audition. But on the day, his mom was literally watching his every move. Like he was. Because she was like, these Hollywood type people. She's probably on the right track, to be honest. They're thinking it's like doing something
as soon as she
terrible.
found out who the director was.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm staying on set.
But apparently you could...
Wait, how old was that kid then?
I don't know. I think he was quite young.
Oh, I thought he was like young adult age.
He's very makeup bruised and stuff
Right,
in his
right,
face
right.
and coloured,
But
isn't
he could never apparently reach the heights of his terror as he did in the audition, because his mom is just literally watching his every move. Smart woman, actually. He apparently went on to be an actor and moved to Hollywood, and tried to do it. He got the bug from doing that little bit.
Oh, right.
And that's all I know.
But he wasn't in anything else, though.
I don't think he is. However,
poor man's being highlighted as a failure here.
But it was in the audio commentary, so I thought I'd reiterate it here. What I also like about this, you would not know this in a million years, when he's in the pipe looking up and shouting at her, all those scenes where it's in the pipe with Justin Long in the pipe and looking out is actually in a studio. That's not live on location. That bit behind them, those trees and everything, that's the only bit. All around the other bits is all studio space. So they make it look so good. I wouldn't have known that in a million years.
I only know that because I, somewhat autistically perhaps, always notice kind of camera cuts all the time when they happen. And you'll always notice that there's always a camera cut before you look up you never look up the blade in one fluid motion.
Yeah.
So they're very clearly, on purpose kept separate. Yeah.
It's cool though. It's really good. I would never have known it myself.
Most people aren't going to notice that like me. Yeah.
And I think this is another place to bring up the composer again, Bennett Salve, because this is where you get the tonal shift. There's certain instruments that are used to create a deep bass tone within this area where he's been revealed and stuff. And there's also a lot of these kind of like violin sounds and string like made specifically for this film. And they basically did that like a month or two before they did the sound sessions where they had to score the film, because they realized they don't have time to be experimental when you're just scoring the film entirely. So he took a few musicians and did a whole weeks of just doing different techniques and coming up with tailored noises and things for the film and use them in different areas. So he said there was evocative and distinctive acoustic sounds that you hear throughout, and the moans and growls you hear later on as well, made by like ball bearings and stuff on strings and all sorts of weird stuff, metal clips on them, playing around with these metallic things on acoustic stuff and just playing, really. And that was the idea of it. So a lot of that score was done then and recorded in LA because of having the musicians capable to think outside the box like this. And like I said before, they changed the orchestra size depending on the scene and depending what they wanted to create a smaller sound or a bigger sound. It's interesting stuff. It's really like kind of well made in that way. And when I was thinking about this film, I've never thought about it in such a way that it had a full orchestra, because obviously it did with the score it has, and how it's still on film. It's cheaper in that time to be on film than it was to be digital.
Oh, shot on film, was it?
Yeah, shot on film. Yeah. So it's a very classically made film in a way, and I quite, that's more endearing to me in some senses.
Yeah, well, it helps it look and feel better anyway, right? Like a lot of the movies shot on digital in the early days of digital don't really hold up.
Look at Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, and you can't get like Blu-ray recuts of them very easily, or 4K restorations or anything, because there is no original, a million infinite resolution film reel to draw from.
You just make the pixel squares bigger and then
Yeah.
Oh, you solved it. Yeah.
Anything else stand out for you, Dave, in this scene?
No, not really. I look. I don't know if they said it explicitly or not, but I was just thinking of the Sistine Chapel with all of the.
It's kind of.
Well, he says later on, doesn't he? He says something along the lines of the Sistine Chapel of torture or something.
Yeah.
He's like exasperated with the cop not believing him.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I quite like what do you think of all the crows and everything around?
Yeah, I mean that's another bit of like Hitchcockian borrowing, isn't it, with the birds? But yeah, everybody loves a crow in a horror movie. They're like staple.
It's a shortcut to making an atmosphere.
Spook zone.
You just put a crow in. Crow or thunder or both.
Yeah. Why not all?
Do you know?
But,
Yeah. Sorry.
no, carry on.
Oh, I was going to say, do you know apparently it's actually illegal to shoot crows like flying through the air, go like film them
Why?
in Florida, in LA, and that in that.
Why?
I don't know why, but the
You're going to tease us.
no, that's what Victor Salva says in the audio commentary. He's like, do you know,
he knows the law.
well, he knows it quite well, but
Yeah.
he does know.
Wait, is crow a euphemism?
No.
Shooting the crow.
Recording crows is apparently illegal in Florida.
But there are shots of crows flying.
Yeah, legal shots.
What?
Illicit flying crows.
So why isn't he brought up on crow shooting charges?
Because it's... I don't know. How do I don't
Did he
know
have to
that.
pretend it was in a different state?
Maybe. But it's in the audio commentary.
Taking a day out to go to a different state to shoot a crow.
To shoot the exact same
Yeah.
kind of crow that was in...
It's filming crows. Illegal.
It's going to bring up the onion.com.
in Florida. So, legal status. Crows are federally protected migratory bird. In Florida, crows can be hunted during their regulated hunting season, sometimes damage
does
remains.
shoot mean with a gun?
No, I put is... Oh, sorry, I did put shooting. I thought I put filming, not shooting.
Who goes crow hunting?
Is it illegal to film crows in the US? Why is it? Apparently, it's under bird law. That's all I know.
Is this an Always Sunny website? Did Charlie Kelly write this?
This isn't real.
Bird law?
You just bring up the whole podcast with this bullshit.
The birds invented? Who writes bird law?
They're protected. That's all I know.
There's this image of this crow at a laptop. It's like, some idiot's going to believe this.
This is Big Crow
Bird
is
law.
just like filling the internet with
Look,
Yeah.
fake law here.
Anyway, at the end of this scene, we just have one of my favourite bits in the movie with Trish trying to go.
Yeah. Well,
Trying to get the-
it happens about 5 times
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
movie. Yeah.
It's a bad manual gearbox.
Yeah.
It's on its way.
But
out.
it's just not a sound it would ever make, and
Yeah.
not a problem. I mean, it's
It's a good scene though. I love that where you think that it's coming back for.
But I think that's got to be like, I'm taking it as, because I like the movie, but it's tongue in cheek, right? The way it happens,
Yeah.
just when the worst point possible to happen. I think it's having fun with the audience. I think after you've been down in the torture zone is when it starts doing a bit more kind of, ironical plot developments.
Yeah, definitely. But there was the bit where where
Disagreement.
Being a bit
Disagreeing,
charitable,
shaking
aren't
of
you?
head over
Being a
there.
bit charitable. Like, I don't think...
Charitable. It's not. It doesn't need charity. It's
I
a good
don't know.
movie.
Go on, Dave.
It's fine. No, I mean, I actually have no problem with that gearbox, but like, you're reading way too much into it. Like,
What do you mean reading it?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're on a horror podcast.
I mean, it's.
we're doing a retrospective.
How dare I be critical? No, it's. I mean, it's
fine.
It's
Like, it's just
flabbergasted. He looks like a cat, like, caught in the headlights.
I mean, anyone that's seen this movie would say that they're like convenient. It's a convenient plot device to.
it's like to build Hitchcockian tension. It's perfectly like on. It feels totally consistent, in my opinion, with what came before. I don't think it's like an act of levity or something.
It
does
say
change
it's
up.
levity, but it's purposefully, I think, kind of. Scream light. I'm going to use again. It's a bit like this is happening again and again, and the more it happens, you're supposed to, I think, notice it as the audience and realize that it's a bit like playful, right? Like it's always happening at the worst times. It's basically inspiring the man to say, "Well, why didn't this happen earlier?" who's in the audience, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Justin Long here, when he says basically it took him. They shot this bit at the end of the day when they were on Last Lights. So if they hadn't have got this shot with her out on the being petrified and not being able to get it in gear, and then him in this continuation of the shot, then doing a jump scare on her basically as he comes back from finding his way out of the church basement. He told director basically. I need 45 minutes to get into this headspace where I can actually do this genuinely and have a genuine reaction like my character should. And he apparently went off to the side, like Sal was like, we don't have 45 minutes. It's going to go dark. Like, come on. But he did get that. And he basically put on headphones, worked himself up in such a way, did exercise. He used to do this when he had to be frantic. He would like exercise and do stuff to make his heart rate go up so he could match
Boost
what
his
the character
adrenaline
needed.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And it works. When you see him, he looks genuinely petrified on that door and broken. Like his eyes, they look broken. Like he really looks serious, and I think it was well worth the fact that they waited that long.
Yeah,
for that.
It's very believable. If it was another actor, maybe it wouldn't have been believable. Maybe it would have been a little bit kind of seem overboard or get yourself together, mate, kind of reaction. But because of his performance, it seems quite believable that he is this shell-shocked and he is like non-verbal and stuff. I like it.
Yeah. All right. Next up, they go to the diner where they probably use the restroom as well, which is where I'm going to go right now. So we'll be back. Right, so we're back, and Mike has definitely seen that bird law is a real thing.
Oh yeah, it's all been confirmed off camera that bird. Not only is it called bird law, but it is applicable everywhere, not just Florida. So if you see any crows and record them, please call the police.
You could end up in jail for 15 months on a 3-year sentence for that.
Yeah, that's how Victor Salva got done.
Moving swiftly on.
It was like Al Capone. Right? You got done on something small.
Okay, so we're in the diner.
we are.
We've made it to the diner. They receive a cryptic warning from a mysterious woman who predicts their imminent danger, mentioning a future encounter with the cat lady and playing the song Jeepers Creepers. That one.
Screaming in the dark and so on.
Suggesting that one of them will meet a terrifying fate whilst hearing it. Dari, angry and terrified of the woman's warnings, calls the police, who does not believe him. While talking to the cops, the truck driver broke into their car, and the waitress behind them, who witnessed it, testifies that he sniffed their laundry and looked like he really liked it.
Yeah, looked like he liked it.
I really like that scene.
Yeah,
like the idea because
sniffing.
Underwears. Because I just wish he was a human serial killer, and that he does that is so creepy.
Yeah,
I think it would have been way
freaky.
Way cooler,
sadistic. Man. I mean, up till that point, that is what you think, right? So, and it is creepy, and they're mortified as you would expect. And actual foreshadowing is the showing of the laundry and them talking about the laundry before that happens.
Yeah.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it. It's foreshadowing.
Foreshadow king.
It's allowed in the foreshadow corner.
Yeah.
If you're new to us, Dave likes to foreshadow.
Yeah, and he sees foreshadowing everywhere.
Say no defense.
No comment.
Yeah. He's seen foreshadowing in the credits before because he's seen the name, and then later on you actually see the actor. Yeah.
Well, the film's called Jeepers Creepers,
and then you hear the song multiple
Jeepers
times,
Creepers.
and every time it's just foreshadowing the next time.
Exactly.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I like though when they actually go into this diner. And they all look at them like they're mental out-of-towners. And
I mean, they do look a bit mental.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Like,
and he probably stinks. Think of how he must smell after being down in that.
Yeah, well, he's noticeably dirty, isn't he, as well? And it's got one of the only jump scares in the movie with the phone, which I don't really like, with the phone going off and they're just like jump out of their skin.
I do like how he tries to walk with the phone around the corner and it pulls him back.
Yeah.
Do you think that was just a mistake?
Who knows? It works well.
It is quite violent, isn't it?
It is.
It's full
real
tilt.
freaky.
Yeah.
It's a good scene. Like there's not much happening other than just setting up what's to come with the cops and
it's a nice little bit of world building there.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
the rural zone. And the people looking at these out of towners as if what the hell are you doing here? And do you really need the police? It
must be the only place to get gas for hundreds and hundreds of miles. In that whole area.
Imagine so.
Yeah, I think that the diner fulfills the role that you were talking about with the gear stick before. I think like this is more or less the turning point of the tone of the film. But it's more like you just catch your breath, especially after like the adrenaline of what happened before.
Yeah.
You get time to kind of recenter yourself, and then the plot kind of takes a new direction after this point.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of like a settling point.
Yeah, it like consolidates kind of the end of the first act, and then we move on into something new, and it just gives everybody like basically some downtime. I think like the audience gets some downtime after.
It's a good
like,
chance to go to the loo if you're in the pictures watching it or something.
or if you're doing a podcast talking about it.
Or if exactly.
correct.
Yeah,
The same thing.
100%. So
I mean, does she? I think she mentions. I mean, it's implicit or it's alluded to that she's kind of psychic or something on the phone call before you meet her later on, and that's the first introduction of the supernatural element as well. So I think it's a turning point in all of the ways possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So the police then, after the sniffing thing, they find the dust print on the side, like old.
Looks like somebody already has.
Yeah. And the police escort them, but on their way, they learn that the church has been set on fire, destroying any potential evidence. And then shortly after this, the police officers are brutally attacked and killed by the creeper, leaving Trish and Dari in shock as they witness the carnage.
Yep.
And we get our cool synth pop 80s version of the theme.
I think it's Susie and the Banshees, isn't it? But I'm not sure. But I love this scene. This is where it starts like, creature features at a full. Like it's going for the fun and the entertainment. You get a similar shot from the windscreen as you did for the truck approaching, but with the creeper on the roof. You go in full like violence. The suspense has kind of gone out of the window as much as the cop does at the start, and then like the he stabs his hand through the roof and pulls him through and chops his head off, and then throws it at the car in front. It's,
I like he's got these old weapons, like it's like
it's
great.
like some kind of Viking axe type thing that he uses, isn't it? Yeah.
Good slasher, top 10 slasher. Like,
just crept in. Say goodbye to Jason.
Can we not? Can we not, please?
Dave is still
bitter about that. Yeah,
salty.
Yeah.
We did a video. In fact, you can watch it up here. But it's a previous video we did with the 10 top 10 slashers of all time, where we got together and did like a point system. And Jason Voorhees didn't make the top 10 because the creeper crept in,
as he's known to do.
Anybody watching just turned off the video with that result.
No, but they love Jeepers Creepers because they were watching this.
The thousands and millions, in fact.
Millions!
Jeepers Creepers super fans.
What about the Jason fans, though?
Not as many as the creeper.
I think the creeper would beat Jason in a straight fight.
Jason's immortal.
Yeah, and so is the creeper.
Yeah.
Doesn't he die at some point?
No.
No?
I mean, are you referring to the second one? Where he
possibly
quote unquote dies because of the catapult.
Yeah.
And he's in the third one, isn't he? Which is terrible.
Fuck the third one.
Anyway, let's get off that subject. There's some really cool stuff happening here. You've got the Super Dinos, they call them. So Fulton Roy, cinematographer, bought in these. He called them 6 moons, and they're huge lights, and they're the whole road. So it was 3/4 of a mile long. They could light, and half a mile wide.
God.
So they were able to this stretch of road. They were able to film it with good lighting.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really good stuff.
I mean, I guess having thought of that, it would be weird for it to be as brightly lit as it is in the movie in this like rural.
But what they did with the car in the opening scene is put it on a rolling platform, and then the actual car filming had all of the as the director and all the cameramen on it and everything, and it would just be so they could act as it was rolling along. And they had that here as well, but the police car was free, so the actual actors were actually driving the police car. But if you notice, that scene is a one shot where they skip from the police car. That's in one take.
That's quite a good shot, actually, that track from the one window to the other.
I jotted that down as well. That's very...
But that was a really intricate, hard to shoot shot. Like they had to practice that. And the police car had to go at a certain speed and hit the mark. And the car on its side on the side of it, filming it, had to hit a mark as well to be everything to be lit properly. And so you can imagine that car having to slow down, put it right to a stop where the camera is, and then go back to the other shot. And that police car's got to stay at that.
You don't actually
same
see
rate.
it very
It's
often,
incredible.
that shot.
No.
Like, the one I would always think of is the Raid 2, which has a lot of in and outs of cars and stuff. And they did that with insane camera techniques. But even on the basic level of this movie, where it moves from one car to another, a lot of passive people might not even pick up on it, but that's an incredibly difficult shot to perfect. Yeah.
And it looks good as well. It gives you a good sense of kind of space and it get like and the geography of like how these two entities are like in relation to each other. I think it's good. Like it's worth the effort for that. And yeah, it's very memorable as well. I actually wish there were more shots like that in the film. Maybe they could have done it at the beginning as well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if they had a bigger budget, there would have been a lot more. Because clearly, the cinematography team and the director had the talent to create these kind of shots because they're peppered in throughout the entire movie. But maybe if they had a much more increased budget, the rest of the movie would have been shot in a similarly kind of shockingly good style for the kind of movie that it is.
So on from this, they witness all of this and that great scene with the eating.
Yeah, tastes so damn good.
Yeah. Apparently the guy from MGM on the first watch hated that. He was like, oh my God, you can't do this. Like some of the guys who work higher up.
Like the text on the billboard?
No, the whole like making out with it and then you eating the tongue.
Oh, right.
I mean, it's quite shocking for a mainstream horror movie before, your Saws and stuff in the 2000s, I would say.
Apparently there's MGM
especially
like,
with
you can't do this.
The tongue ripping out like a Haribo or something.
Yeah.
Stretching, it stays on it for quite a while as the tongue is stretching before.
And the whole thing is in shadow as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
With the billboard illuminated.
It's like
behind.
backlit behind.
Yeah.
And they're almost silhouetted. Yeah.
And we still haven't quite crossed into supernatural territory yet, right?
No, it's still
apart from him being able to jump on top of a car somehow and
yeah. I mean, it's kind of goofy, but like you could believe that was.
I mean, if I was to see if they were to bring out a new like I Know What You Did Last Summer, I could imagine them playing it non-supernatural with the hook guy just getting on the top of a car, for example. So
so they seek refuge and they stop off at the home of an elderly woman with numerous cats. And they
numerous, you say?
Numerous.
How many? Exactly.
And they attempt to call the police.
Yeah.
I love this scene.
I think this scene... I mean, I love all of these scenes.
Yeah.
I love the cop car scene, but every single line she says... Her line, I don't know whether it was coached from her or it was her personal
I think
choice.
she improvised. I think there was a lot of improvisation on her part.
But all of her
Eileen
lines
Brennan
are just absolute gold.
Yeah.
From a horror standpoint and from a kind of tongue-in-cheek horror comedy standpoint. The delivery is amazing. Like the way she's kind of silhouetted at the doorway is amazing. The way she's like marching around with a shotgun. That ain't my scarecrow. And that kind of shit. Oh, love it.
It is good.
Thing.
There's a documentary that they did at the time of filming, and they're interviewing her, and she's saying she learnt from the cats. So like the thing she does with her voice, like the cats, like she's a cat in that.
Yeah.
She also calls them cuddly potatoes, like cats.
The actress?
Like, yeah. She's
really?
Maybe just the woman.
Do they actually just get an actual crazy cat lady that was just walking around? They just got her in.
Yeah. Eileen Brennan, legend of the screen. Do you want to know why?
From anything?
Well, she's been in all sorts. Clue. She's been in Clue. Private Benjamin.
Clue is awesome.
Murder by Death. The String. Cheap Detective. Last Picture Show. I mean, she's literally in hundreds. Yeah, she's that again. Like what's her face in Better Call Saul. Carol, is it Carol? Not
Barnett.
Carol. Yeah, Carol Barnett. Yeah, that type of. She had a recurring role in Taxi, things like this. Very ingrained in American culture, basically. And so she's quite funny. And you've also got the scarecrow you alluded to.
Yep.
That's one of the first things that Brad Parker, who was the designer of the Creeper, that's the first thing he saw in the script. So he's the guy who came up with the idea of what the Creeper would eventually look like. And he grew up in Nebraska, old abandoned houses and everything, so he had a distinct idea. and Salvo wasn't expecting anything concrete, and he came back to him with these ideas of what the Creeper would look like. I'm like, whoa, we got it.
Yeah. It's a common theme throughout a lot. I mean, The Town That Dreaded Sundown is pretty damn good. There's another one that I'm not going to be able to source the name of right now. But, I mean, there's been a lot of, like, scarecrow-looking killers. Because it's a very distinctive look, right? With the hat and the tatty clothes.
A common fear as well, I think, especially as a...
Because they are supposed to be scary.
Yeah,
They're supposed to scare off the birds.
Yeah, the ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does come back in the second.
I'm surprised it doesn't break bird law to scare that many
scare
crows.
crows.
Yeah.
No, you can scare them, you just can't film them. You just can't film them.
You can't film them being scared.
Yeah.
Definitely not. No.
But they bring that motif back in the second one, don't they? With the scarecrow at the beginning. So it's something that is really iconic within the franchise. And one of the things you think of when you think of Jeepers Creepers, you kind of think of a scarecrow, don't you? Like that character, if you're thinking of the Creeper himself. And yeah, Brad Parker described him as the monster from the Midwest. And it's that person that if you lived in those areas in the Midwest, would be your worst nightmare. He is that creature in the middle of nowhere when your kid's growing up. Maybe he's under your bed. Maybe he's driving that old truck around. And it's that open spaces, old things rotting and all of that lovely
just
stuff.
Going missing forever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
When you live in such a rural place, people can go missing and there is no earthly way of ever really finding them, right?
You know, and this is where we see kind of like... Eileen Brennan alluded to that she literally could have a conversation with the Creeper if they gave him lines, because it's so realistic. Like the way it's designed, the Creeper was designed. It was almost all there going, apart from the wings. It's like fully costumed up.
Well, he allegedly had one line, right, that was cut.
Yeah,
did you read that? It was. Well, it's not on here, but I remember the vague sense. It was something like when he's carrying the woman after he's killed her up to the door, or after she's dying, he says something along the lines of, "It doesn't smell very good, does she, Derry?" Which wouldn't have hurt. Which would have hurt the movie.
That really would have hurt the movie.
Yeah,
I might like that. I don't know.
If it had gone full ham.
Yeah. It would have circled back round for me. I would have liked it.
Yeah, you want it to be more over the top then.
So he doesn't talk in any of them, right?
Well, I mean,
I think he might talk in number 3 or something.
I don't want to remember 4. I think
I've not seen
possibly
the reboot.
I've seen 3 and 4. They're abominable, horrible movies. I don't remember any talking, but there may have been, because I think I was just being tortured by the experience of watching those movies. But in my opinion, you know, like 1 and 2 are the only ones worth discussing. And if he isn't talking either of those, which he doesn't, he's completely silent. Yeah.
There's fun like scenes in the making of documentary where she's trying to do her lines for she's still inside the house talking to the kids, and the cats just start fighting each other, and they're like, and they have to cut every time.
Yeah. As you should expect when you're in a house with like 40 cats in
yeah.
Yeah.
And in the audio commentary, Victor Salva says they didn't do anything what we asked. When we opened the door, they're all meant to come flooding out, and like 4 of them did, and they're like, you get what you can get.
Well, you know, when they all come up to the windows, they smeared tuna all over all of the windows, and then just let the cats loose. And
it's a bit like what they did in Black Christmas to get that cat, like the catnip.
Yeah, that was cat food on the back, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, cats aren't teachable like dogs.
No,
You've just got to smear food and hope they...
There's a reason why Eddie was a dog in Frasier.
Well, I can't think of any sitcoms with a regular cat, and that's probably why. Yeah.
Or a cool cat. There's a few cool cats. But no.
What are you referencing?
I don't know.
I thought you were about to talk about Top Cat, but no, we're talking about like 70s
noir.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the driver hiding in her yard kills her and reveals a monstrous appearance to Trish and Darry.
The face reveal.
Yeah.
You get more shocked face. It's amazing.
And then you obviously get the bit where he jumps over the car, and then Trish repeatedly
and he's
runs.
doing like flips and stuff.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
What do you think about that bit?
I love it, man. This is when we're in full kind of over the top territory. It's supposed to be. You're hating on what it's trying to be.
No, maybe, but it just doesn't work for me at all. Like, do you like this bit? Or?
I don't know really. I'm kind of torn on it.
You're on the fence.
yeah, a little bit, because I kind of appreciate it, but I also think the tonal shift of this bit is weird. Like, he's like, whoa, he almost becomes like a freaking Olympian.
I think you're both trying to make it into a movie that it's not, right? I mean,
I wish he wasn't supernatural. I maintain.
I wish he was not.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
agree. No, but I don't think that that's even consistent with what he is after this scene either. Like in the final scene, he's trying to be scary and picks Derry at the end because of fear.
Yeah, that's what I have issue with. They circle back around to horror at the end. I don't think that's right. But I like all of the stuff from the diner till then, because that's the tonal shift working well, I think. It goes from scary to entertaining for me.
I do like the stunt, but
yeah, I mean, it's a well-executed stunt.
Yeah.
It's well executed, and you can tell that it's a human being doing it, which is, you can appreciate, just the act being put onto film, I guess. But it feels very inconsistent because, my question was always, why does the first act even happen? Why does he do any of that at the beginning?
Well, to sniff him out, to start causing fear.
Precisely. But then he does this goofy bullshit shit in the middle.
Yeah, but wouldn't you be scared if some bloke who looked like
I don't think it hurts the narrative, as you're saying. I mean, all the characterization of the creature, right? Like, he's not a human being, so for all he knows, this is just how, he's not got any creeper friends to bounce ideas off of. Like, for him, like, if it's cool
a creeper
to do
girlfriend.
There's no Mrs. Creeper, so like if he thinks
I wish that was.
If he thinks it's cool to do a flip, then yeah, good on him.
It's a good shot though.
No, it is. Like, what's being presented is good. It just doesn't work for me at all. Like, it kills the tone completely.
But I think the tone changes on purpose, right? So you're just disliking the direction it.
I guess that you kind of get that tonal shift with the eating of the guy before with the billboard, but you also get it when he opens up the back of the van and they got throws in the body and
then he
he's like,
closes it and then
yeah.
throws the head in. Yeah,
that's a good moment.
No, but for me, that level of camp feels consistent with what came before. Like, I got no problem with camp. I love camp, but like that. It just
you want situational camp rather than character action camp, right? Like, him doing flips is different from him forgetting the head.
It just doesn't feel. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't feel consistent with what came before and what came after, even. So.
But you got to concede that it's fun, though, right?
It's
We're going to get back to the St. Clair.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, you always do this. But it was fun.
If something's fun, it's fun, right? You enjoy it, yeah.
But I like how they shot it anyway. There was a suspension system, took the weight of them, but they were still in control of their own actions. So they were basically saying the stuntman couldn't really rely on someone pulling something to do it.
It's the equivalent of like wire fu, isn't it? What they use to describe like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon or whatever. Yeah. So they lift it up, which assists them vertically, but it doesn't do the stunt.
But they're the one jumping it. They're finding the timing because they can't rely on someone to time it for them. They have to do the timing of actually jumping over a car going at 20 miles per hour or whatever.
For sure. And that those wires will only assist them vertically. I imagine it won't assist them getting over the car and like keeping their legs from getting caught and so on. So it's a stunt to be hailed.
Absolutely, it doesn't harm the legitimacy of the stunt at all. Like, the wire is just a little assistance to
make it possible, really, without significant injury possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, it transcends it into something slightly supernatural, right? Like slightly beyond what a human.
And when you know he has wings.
Assistance.
Was it going to go like this when you know he really is supernatural?
Yeah, and I like that reveal. I think that has kind of a bit of scariness to it because it flaps out and it's backlit by their headlights and it flaps around a little bit before it lies flat again.
It looks pretty good considering the age of the film.
Yeah,
there's the CGI.
Yeah, it looks very good. It's very well used.
I like the idea. I like the idea of it, and like I say, I like the idea of it becoming a creature feature. I think the wings don't look very good, in my opinion.
I don't think they look great, but I think they look good.
I think for 2001 standard, it looks amazing. Yeah.
Well, I don't
2001
know.
standard and the budget.
And they look better than what was in The Mist.
Looks way better than The Mist.
Whoa.
It does though, doesn't it? It looks better than those tentacles.
Yeah, but like the wings weren't CGI, were they? They were practical.
No, the wings are CGI.
Oh, they are CGI.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Are they fully CGI? Are they CGI?
No, they're
retouched
fully
there?
CGI. Because
I know they are at the end when he's flying, but
they did
when
it
he's
in
on the
three-
road.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
CGI as well.
They show it in the documentary. There's 3 stages. There's like the metal stage where it's like just the like fingers basically of the wing, and then they add in the framework, and then they finally do the actual molding of it and stuff. And that when he's lying on the ground, there wasn't any practicality to that. That was all CGI in that scenario. So I think it does look pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I might have liked it more if like the goofy jumping thing hadn't happened just before. Because I like the idea. I like the idea of the wing.
So hard, man.
The wing, like the wing reveal. I like the idea of it. And there is
I think
actually
that works on a serious level. I don't think there's any. I mean, maybe that's your problem, right? I mean, it's bookended obviously by the first half, which is very serious, and then there's also kind of a serious scene.
Yeah, towards
the
the
wing
end.
is
Yeah,
revealed, and also the ending. And when she's running over him, there's no like it does go up and down.
yeah.
You just have to ride with the tone as it stands.
I mean, perhaps this would have fitted more with the original ending. Perhaps this is like something goofier to fit a goofier, bigger budget ending than what was available to them, because they had to go with an emotional punch ending instead of a big action sequence.
Yeah.
So this was probably set up for a big action sequence.
I think it does defeat its own purpose when it goes full serious right at the end. If it was gradually becoming goofier and sillier as it went along, to this big, goofy, ridiculous creature feature extravaganza at the end, so, I think it would be undeniable that it's a good tonal.
Do you know about the original ending? Basically, what it is.
I read a little bit about it. Like Dustin Long's character crashes into a train or something.
But they escape when the creeper is killing all the policemen inside the police station. They actually escape out of it, and the only car available to them is the creeper's van.
Right.
So they steal the van, and then they go off, and basically the creeper is flying overhead, trying to get to them and get them, and he jumps on top, and there's this big struggle, and then the train is there as well. So they're basically following the train at the same time, and then obviously they have to get onto the other side, and a big, huge explosion happens with this, and then Derry is taken by the creeper in the same way. So
out of the truck.
Out of the truck. So a lot of the same stuff happened. It was just going to be a huge Michael Bay style extravaganza.
Spectacle.
Which I would have loved to have seen, actually, and that would have fitted much more.
I think so. Yeah,
where this is meant to be going.
The momentum.
Yeah,
as you say, like the progression towards camp.
Yeah.
And
the tonal shift I have a problem with is right in the last like 10 minutes.
And we also bring back the van. So we bring back that character of the van too, which is a really nice bookend.
Which I would say is even more iconic than the creeper himself.
Definitely, I would say so.
He might have got a vote in my top 10 slasher killers.
The creeper's van.
Yeah.
We do like top 10 horror vehicles.
That's difficult.
There's quite a few.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll think about it.
Might actually a top 5 though.
Yeah. So they eventually reach the police station where they meet Giselle, the sidekick who called them at the diner. She reveals the true nature of their pursuer, an ancient creature called the Creeper, which emerges every 23rd spring for 23 days to feed on human body parts, incorporating some of them into its own body. Giselle warns them that the creeper hunts its victims through fear, and by smelling the fear from Trish and Darry, it has found something it likes.
Yeah. Even though I'm not so sure about the character's inclusion, she's got some good lines in that bit, right? When she's doing the kind of exposition of the law, and she's talking 23rd year, 23 days, gets to eat.
I think she's great. Like I don't mind an exhibition dump. What did I say? Exhibition. Exposition dump.
You love a good exposition dump from.
It's one of my.
Sorry.
What?
From
where are you going, Joe?
I don't know. I'm holding back.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite like horror cliches. A big exposition dump. God damn it! That and like a nice research montage. I love those.
Yeah. I mean, I like a montage of any kind, as you'll know. Rocky 4 is a masterpiece. But I don't like
the film is all montage.
Yeah, it's like the highest percentage of montage for any movie. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a certain. I like an exposition dump when it's an earlier movie. I think because I give them a bit more credence to do so. When it's a 2001 movie, it makes me want to, put it down a little bit. Like
I don't mind
when they've
this.
been so clever with the narrative moving on throughout the movie, and then it gets to this point, and they were pushing it on through the phone call, and that was kind of interesting, and they're pushing it on through the song, that's kind of interesting. But when it gets to this point, and she's just completely explaining the origin of this creature.
But it doesn't go
don't
too
know.
deep, though. It only gives you the very basics of what you need to know about this creature
And
to push
it's
the
got some
film
good
along
lines
to the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it.
But
I just wish they'd been a bit more inventive with
But
that.
I really don't mind with the idea of the 23rd spring, blah, 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 every 23 years. And I
Yeah.
quite like that.
Is there
about
any?
it.
Did you find any relevance to the number 23? Has that
No,
got any?
I didn't.
No,
I
never
had
did
no
I.
idea.
Yeah,
Maybe it's something you picked out of thin air. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
rolled a big dice.
Yeah.
Big die. What were you saying?
Yeah, I actually quite like it in as a throwback to the kind of monster movies he's trying to reference.
Yeah,
You'd
there's usually those kind
you'd
of
expect to
characters,
see
yeah.
to see those kind of characters in those kind of films. I think, and for me that works. And I get the sense. I guess my minor criticism would be that I get the sense that they had this really cool concept for the creeper, the whole 23 years thing, hunting with fear, etc., etc.
yeah.
And they couldn't find a way to incorporate that into the story. They really wanted it. They really wanted to build the mythos
without
behind this.
cutting away from the main characters.
Yeah. Like especially the 23-year thing.
Yeah.
To maintain the momentum of the story, because it's not real time, but we basically follow them on one night, right? So there won't be time for them to go away and research and find out. Although, because they're talking at the beginning about the high school.
Yeah, well, I was
couple
about to
that died
mention
23 years
Yeah, I
ago.
mean, they have an urban legend of their own. Okay, it's not relating to the creeper, but they have an urban legend about these missing kids, right?
Yeah, maybe there was a better way to tie that back in.
To some kind of creature, right?
But this is where...
Maybe if they knew about another disappearance and it just happened to be 23 years before.
Yeah, so
that
23
or
years
something.
before that one. Yeah, they need a good research montage, and they can maybe cut out some of the
There's
exhibits.
some newspapers lying around.
Exposition.
In the
This is
police
where
station.
Victor Salva would argue about this part of the film in the second. It becomes a campfire story. And what do you do in that? You say every 23rd. Are you, specifically saying, and this is that year, is that campfire. And they said this is why they love this in Italy and Spain and stuff, because it's a dark Italian fable. It turns into a fable movie. And that's what his argument is anyway. But I get the idea of the campfire story in the US. Like, it would be the start of a Friday the 13th movie where they all sit around the campfire and exchange urban legends about
mythologizing,
Yeah.
right? It's building up something to a punchline. But I think we get it quite late on.
And I think
we already know.
Yeah, I would fully
creature.
agree with you there. The problem with the campfire story aspect is that would work much better in a first act.
Yeah.
When it was
When we
The
already
first act is so strong.
well, exactly. That's a different film. Like the whole film is a monster film in that way, right? They set it up properly, like a
and
Friday the
I think
13th with
the denial of
monster.
Trish is out of place a little bit, because that exposition scene is so late about what the creeper is, after we already know he's like a supernatural flying monster being.
Yeah.
Denying this woman, telling info dumping about him doesn't ring so true with me, because it's too late in the story for this exposition.
Yeah, especially when she's been pretty switched on and almost
Up
aware
till
that
that
she was in a horror film.
she's
she
just
was
dealt
pulling
with the
it
fact
out.
that it's a supernatural thing and just going for survival. Yeah.
Well, the wounded creeper arrives at the police station, which actually also happens to be the least realistic thing, because he doesn't have a leg.
I
And
love the hobbled walk that he does.
Surely,
I like that, actually.
surely
Yeah.
that truck is a manual and not an automatic. How is he changing gears in that thing?
Well, did you hear at
That
any point?
ruins the film.
That's the most unrealistic thing. Anyhow,
Or maybe there was a hitchhiker just walking along the road, got munched, and then he could drive
where he's
away.
got a stick and he just every time he wants to change gear.
But also,
Maybe he has a chauffeur.
yeah.
He just has a little thrall that just drives him around.
I mean, that must happen, right? Because where is his truck? Did you leave that at where
The
did you leave
church or
that?
something.
Because he jumped on the cop car, right? Where was the truck in the entire chase?
Well, there's the thing about the church being
burned down.
burnt down, yeah. And I guess he flew there because Derry makes a point of saying he wouldn't have been able to get there and back. How did he do that?
Yeah.
So he must have just left it. You know, when he drives past the garage,
Yeah.
he must have just parked it around the corner and he's playing with them, isn't he? That's what I'm imagining is happening off screen. He just parks it around the corner. I mean, I think
to a
for
certain extent, he does have to play with them to get the fear out of them, so he can
yeah,
smell
exactly,
them, right?
exactly.
So,
That's what I
yeah.
mean. So he's probably just parked it around the corner. He's gone, just doing all this stuff. So every time he just needs to bring the van a bit further on. So like he's just like, oh
Yeah,
god,
he's going to do some admin.
He's got all the admin to do off screen.
Yeah.
But you know he can go around back and forth really quickly in the air. But he has to move this truck around in from place to place.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, if he really wanted to scare the shit out of people, he didn't need the truck. He could just fly around like an absolute monster.
Literally just
like,
Yeah, but again, he's playing with them, isn't he?
yeah, and I understand why they chose it in the movie, but yeah.
I quite like that about his character, that he is playful in that way. Like there is this sick play. He treats them like toys, and I do think that as soon as he smells Trish and Derry, like as soon as he's done that, they're doomed. There's nothing they can do in this film for them not to. He's playing with them throughout here.
Yeah.
Like this is what this emotional ending does, rather than the train one. It dooms them to a certain fate. There's no point after they've been in the pipe that you go, well, they can get away somehow with this. He's basically playing with them until he doesn't want to do it anymore and finds out what
which
he
is
needs
what
to find
the
out.
psychic woman said.
Yeah.
Do you think it weakens him as a monster though, that he plays with them on that way?
Well, I think it's interesting because I'm not sure that he is a monster. Because would a monster right at the end be sitting at a desk sewing flesh together? Would he have bothered to make a tapestry of bodies on the wall and reattach a woman's head to her body? Like, why does he do that? We don't know. It's not.
I mean, he has a lot of human traits.
Yeah, exactly. So
He
I don't think
whistles?
he's fully a monster. Yeah, he whistles the Jeepers Creepers song.
Yeah.
He enjoys music. That's confirmed. So yeah,
Yeah, and he has a record player, good collection.
yeah, exactly. he wants like a permanent, nice little place to live. Yeah, so I think he's somewhere.
You sound
in
like you
between. I think
admire
he's
him,
a monster.
like you just want him to have a little home.
Yeah, he's having a good time.
man. So yeah, he's arrived at the police station, starts causing chaos as he consumes prisoners to heal himself, which is really funny. Justin Long in the audio commentary, because there's a bit where it looks like he's given a hand job, anyway, he's like sort of eating his leg and stuff. And
the legs.
And Justin Long's like, "This is a weird place for a hand job scene." And Victor Salva just kind of like glazes over. He doesn't even. No one else talks about it. But Justin was really funny in that audio commentary, just off what we're talking about at the moment. He's like, "Oh God, I had a huge crush on you too, Gina." Like, he's like,
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's like, "Did you?" Like, I didn't know that. I'm like, yeah. And then you got all of Salvo's creepy moments where he's like, "You guys were so young."
You got to take the good with the bad.
Look at young Gina.
I wish there'd be a commentary out there just
without
to
him.
edit him out. Yeah.
Look at young Gina. Oh, wasn't she pretty, young Gina? Like this, it's like, ugh.
No.
Well, she hasn't aged a day. She's the only one of us.
Is that how he talks?
Well, no, I'm just.
You're making him sound like the most evil.
No, I mean, it does come across as too jovial. Like, these young people, look how young you were and stuff. He's very on that all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, make of that what you will. So, despite efforts to capture it by police, the creeper escapes, trapping Trish and Derry. Giselle predicts that one of them is doomed to die horribly. Derry demands to know who, and Giselle looks at Trish. The creeper finds them but spares Giselle before cornering Trish and Derry in an upstairs interrogation room. After sniffing them, the creature throws Trish aside and chooses Derry. Trish offers herself in exchange for her brother's life. The creeper gives it some thought. He mulls it over and then ultimately flies away with him.
It's very early in your rundown there, but I want to give praise to the fact that they're basically doing like a Terminator here, aren't they? They're like having something come in and just decimate the police force. And
maybe that's why they got that cinematographer.
Yeah,
It's exactly like Terminator 2, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's Terminator 1 where he storms the
Oh,
police.
yeah.
That, by the way, that old police station is actually a school, and they dressed it up as a.
Well, it's got those
station.
long corridors.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about US police departments, but I don't know whether they'd have long corridors with like loads of offices.
Do you know
like
that police station reminds me of the police station in Vice City, GTA Vice City? Like the way it looks, it just reminds me of that one. And he goes down into the prison cells. So I don't know if that's a thing of.
Yeah, a lot bigger than though. I mean, I don't know whether you've been to Vice City recently, but the police station is quite small compared to what the child mind invents. Yeah. But yeah, when they're talking about like he's wearing some kind of armor, it's the weirdest body armor I've ever seen. And stuff. I love all those kind of hammy.
It's
lines.
the radio, isn't it? It's like what is happening on radio is. Again, it's an old school type thing to do. It's a bit Pontypoolish.
Yeah, well, it died to save budget, but it actually...
it's good.
It's very
works.
effective.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
And we don't get enough of those kind of scenes anyway, like those Terminator-esque scenes where there's a raid on like an armed building, like assault on Precinct 13, this. I mean, there's probably any number of examples I could come up with if I sat and think here for a while, but we don't get enough of those.
And apparently that floor was really slippy. So when the policemen are like running around and stuff, they kept having to do a retake because everyone kept slipping over on it. Yeah. More audio commentary, like little nuggets of info from that.
If only there was an outtakes with all the slips and spills.
Yeah, I know, it would be good. There's some cool stuff where they go into their like auditions, and there's an audition of what's his name? Jonathan Breck, who plays the Creeper, and the audition for apparently had about 30 guys auditioning for that role, and none of them could quite do it the same way he did. Like,
he didn't break character, did he?
No, it was the sniffing thing. So that sniffing scene where he comes in, they say, "Could you just sniff from one end of the room to the actor on the other and sniff them?" And so you had guys coming and going, like doing all sorts of weird shit. And Victor Salva says, "I wish I'd recorded it all." And you know, he likes to record things. And
we're just going to put that out.
And he said he wished he'd done that one. You know, maybe should have done that one other than others. But he says there were some really funny auditions in there.
Well, I wish more auditions were like freely available on YouTube or whatever, because there are quite a few of those. But you know, it's not like you can look up any movie you want and see the audition of that actor. I'd love if there was just a database to see those.
But there is Jonathan Breck's. If it's on YouTube, look at it, because his audition for the Creeper, like he's interviewed and he's shaved his head completely because that's how he saw the character, and he's got like the most bulging eyes, like as he comes in and they're like the sniffing, and he goes over and sniffs the guy who may have potentially been auditioning for Derry, and he is genuinely terrifying, and they all said in that audition that he's the only one that made them feel that way, and that's why he got the role.
Did he play the Creeper in all of them, Joe?
I don't know, actually. I'll look that up now. But I'm
surprised that they chose. I mean, it's off the strength of his audition, but usually for that kind of creature role, they'd have chose someone taller, right? Because it's not like he's a short man, but he's not exactly. It's not like the guy that played the Predator, right? Where they're like 7'2" or something.
Yeah, he was the Creeper in 2, and he was the Creeper in 3 as well. So he played it in the original 3, the 3 by Salva, and did them all in there. Yeah, I mean, he was. I think I'm the only one that's seen the 4th one, right? But he does look very different in the 4th one.
Oh, right.
And not in a good way.
Yeah. But he purposely didn't get to know the cast of the main 2, so he basically
was kept separate, wasn't he?
He was kept separate, and purposefully, so he didn't get to humanize him, and you would only see him on set as the Creeper, not as a person. So by the end of the film, like they didn't actually really know each other or what he looked like outside of the Creeper makeup, which is really weird to think. It'd be like someone playing Michael Myers. Like, and you'd only ever see them with the mask on if you were Jamie Lee Curtis. Or
in Scream, like nobody knows what Roger L. Jackson looks like, and he'd just like sit with them at a table and they wouldn't know who he was until he opens his mouth.
So we've alluded to this. This scene is a bit weird. The emotional scene.
Yeah, it doesn't really work for me tonally. It's the point in the movie where I agree with your sentiments, but at a different place. Where the movie does take a back step on itself when it's, in my opinion anyway, it's executed this tonal shift quite well throughout the movie, and then it takes a back step and tries to go serious again for the end. And it doesn't ring true to me that it would become this serious. I don't really like apparently they went through multiple redesigns just to make it less like the Predator, but it's still basically the Predator, isn't it?
It's very, very similar, yeah.
I don't like that or understand why we need that.
I don't know. I kind of like the design of it, but I also understand why it doesn't look,
I like the Screech, but he's already quite a distinctive, scary-looking monster to start with. I don't know why we really need the fold-out face.
There is a standout moment in this where there's the two-sided glass.
Yeah.
And you get Trish and the Creeper.
Yeah, and it's a little bit Alien.
Yeah.
A little bit,
that's really
Alien
good.
3. Yeah.
But I also think it's really goofy when he breaks through the door and he's like, like he's like a brick. Like, oh, what the fuck is this?
Like some kind of superhero just walking through doors. Yeah.
I thought, again, though, the performances here are good. So Gina Phillips, this is one of her standout sort of moments with the emotion, like, take me. She finds her strength in this moment, redeems herself, and the character,
from being inexplicably doubting of the supernatural.
The denial I had a problem with, but she's back on believability here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that she's reasonably well set up as someone that would sacrifice herself for a brother, right? Like,
yeah, I think so.
You got the sense. You got the sense that like she.
And they really love each other. Her character is really wound up in comparison. He's an innocent. He's an innocent like kid. He's just a boy, but she's a woman who like has a lot of issues going on around her. And why she's going home for spring break with her brother rather than. But there's that sibling love there. And she's obviously the one who wears the pants and the one who is the protector with those two.
Do you think the psychic woman lied when she said it was?
Potentially.
Trish? Or do you think she didn't know? Or
originally maybe in a vision that the vision could change because maybe she didn't see the...
She did say that she didn't know whether they always come true, I guess.
The act of heroism on the part of Trish could mean that actually she wasn't scared of the creeper in the same way. So not giving that smell off.
Didn't smell as tasty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I always thought that she lied on purpose.
To try and change
I would
the
say
events.
that's probably
that would be my guess, but it's not really confirmed.
No. It's not really important, but I think that she.
But if you're going to insert that character, which I have an objection with, it makes it an important plot point, right? It's one of the only bits of ambiguity in the entire movie.
I like the bit where he crawls on the wall.
Well, I love the bit where he climbs on the wall shortly after, and that is great as well. But I like the bit where he just kind of pokes his body out.
Another
bit of comedy wild card shenanigans from the end of the corridor.
Yeah, that is good too, actually. They did that practically, not him just going. Ugh.
They did.
That wasn't CGI.
No, him actually crawling on the wall was the guy apparently had amazing body strength.
He has superpowers.
Yeah, not saying that he did that.
Is Spider-Man.
He was on like a wire, but it still took a lot of body strength.
People in that shot? Couldn't they have just done it with an inverted camera and a set with the...
That's not as fun.
But come on, it's fun to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, they say because that commentary I listened to was from 2013 or something like that. So they say that nowadays that would be CGI. But I'm kind of glad this film almost stays away from CGI.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I don't want CGI any monsters, right? Like what happened with the Thing remake where they did it with practical effects and then they CGI'd over them, and the CGI was what made it look terrible. I can excuse like kind of shonky, wonky looking practical effects.
Shonky wonky.
Shonky wonky. Yeah. But bad CGI is bad CGI. I don't think there's anyone that likes that.
And I think it nicely goes on to that last bit of CGI. I think it's like the weakest part of the film where he flies away. That just looks ridiculous.
There was no real way of them believably doing
that.
Salvo in the audio commentary goes, I've got no words for this.
Really? Yeah. It didn't really need that.
No. But at least there's not much of it, and I'm glad there isn't, because
it's just maybe like a second shot.
And it was a company, E=MC squared was a CGI company. So what was that?
Did they do the entire? They do all the CGI.
So.
I know.
Did they just do that shot? Or
No, they did all of it.
the
They did
CGI,
the wings. There is a cool bit where they show the making of the wings, both that one where you first reveal and then the double ones at the end.
But they're the only 2 CGI shots in the film.
And when he's in the air.
Yeah,
That's basically it. Everything else is practical, which I really respect of this film, actually. So yeah, the next day, Trish is picked up by her parents while Giselle returns home regretfully. Which that scene, actually, they were being almost forced out at that point. They didn't have the money to carry on, and that was meant to be a real huge emotional payoff for her. It ended up not quite working.
It's not a very good epilogue, that.
No. And then we also have an abandoned factory revealed.
This is the good epilogue.
It's revealed that the creeper has removed the back of Darius' head and taken his eyes, all while the song Jeepers Creepers plays in the background.
Yeah, that's another great iconic image, obviously, when his eyes are cut out of his
and then he pokes, he looks through, It's got quite a good shot to end on,
Yeah, with the dairy eyes as well. Because it's actually Justin Long in the makeup.
Yeah.
That's right.
And his tattoo comes back in the second one, doesn't it?
Oh, it's a sharp as a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Well, when he eats the prisoner in the cell, you see an arm come off, and that has a bit of a tattoo on it. That's also visible on.
Oh right, cool. Yeah.
The creeper.
Victor Salva said that wasn't a very well shot moment in the film. That should have been more obvious, and it wasn't shot very well.
Oh right.
So he would have made it more blatantly obvious.
I only knew on rewatch after having read the trivia. So
yeah,
it's not clear, but it is there.
There we go. That's Jeepers Creepers and the plot. I respect this film as a film, and I respect the process and the vision of it and how it went. Don't respect the person behind it, but I respect that vision, and the idea of it, and actually there's quite a good filmmaker in there as well, and I think that shows in this film. Maybe doesn't show after Jeepers Creepers 2, but
I think it's absolutely solid. It's not and shouldn't be, in my opinion, on any of the greatest of all time lists, even for specific subgenres. But it's a solid movie in a time where a lot of horror movies weren't very good as well. I mean,
that's true.
I'd have to look up 2001, but I would imagine this is probably the best horror movie from that year, or among the best. Even I don't know, 99 to 2003. Not a lot of good movies there, horror movies.
Just The Ring that I can think of.
I was thinking American cinema. If you
the remake, the Ring remake.
Yeah.
I think within the context, you've got to, for whatever reason, bizarrely, Francis Ford Coppola is highly involved in the making of this film. Who took Salva under his wing, and even after his arrest in 1988 and was sent to prison.
Said it would make him a better artist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he did. So he's always, for whatever reason,
always championed him. Yeah,
and they said he was like a young Coppola. That was the idea behind it. Was that he was seen as the second coming of
Salva.
Yeah, Salva. So, there's a lot to it. I mean, so Sony firstly were the ones who offered the money and to write and direct to Salva, and then Francis Ford Coppola heard of it and went, "No way, you're doing this with MGM." So he went to MGM and got him all the money and everything he needed for it. Really bizarrely. And then Coppola was also highly involved because apparently Salva had bent over backwards for MGM about what they wanted. So originally, his first script, the creeper was going to talk. He was going to have a huge backstory. And then Coppola went, "Is this really what you want?" He's like, "Not really. I'm just doing it for the studio." He says, "Rewrite it. Do it the way you want to do it." And basically allowed him to have creative freedom on the film because of that.
Coppola's long-standingly hated studio interference, and multiple times throughout his career put almost all of his entire personal funds behind one of his movies.
Including very recently, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because he wanted to make it, and if people aren't going to give him the money, then he's going to make it himself. Which has to be admired, and it's even more admirable that he's willing to put himself on the line or use his credentials, his reputation to stand up for someone else that's trying to do something else and having difficulty getting the budget. The
scenes that they filmed in the police station, Coppola was on set when they did some of that, so there was huge nerves by everyone when you can imagine that he's on set with you.
Yeah, one of the greatest directors of all time.
Yeah. And
Yeah, especially with a lot of young actors that are like up and coming. Like,
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah.
Especially in their
definitely.
first
Yeah.
proper roles. Yeah.
Apparently, not there, but the the cop who comes to the diner. He apparently told Salva there, he was like, I can't do this today. I can't do it. Like something about the people being around. I can't do it. And apparently he was really stoic and he couldn't find the same gear. And I think so. That's the idea of this film. So many young actors, so many people who hadn't ever been in a film were given a chance by this film. Interesting stuff with it. And so then MGM didn't think it would do very well, and they dumped it on Labor Day weekend, which apparently is like the dumping ground. It's like where you send things to die.
Yeah.
But when is Labor Day in the year? It's not early, is it? Because I hear that about January a lot as well.
Yeah. Well, it's. I think it's a day where people are doing.
First Monday of September each year.
Yeah,
So that
people are
weekend.
usually doing something else on that day.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
Not going
right.
to the cinema. Yeah.
But apparently 2 weeks before the release, MGM just started putting loads of marketing money behind it and just
right.
did it for whatever reason. And then the original tagline for the film was "Fear the Night." And according to Salva, he went into
Fear
the
the Night.
MGM office.
The most generic
Yeah,
tagline
yeah.
ever.
It's about fear.
He went into
It's
the
foreshadowing the fact that there's scary bits going on at night. Yeah.
So he went into the MGM office and said, "We should do What's Eating You." And the guy who ran it apparently sat there for a minute and just like, "I like it." And then apparently all the yes men surrounding him. That is Salva's version of events.
Yeah.
You know that's
Fits in with business culture, though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently it just did incredible numbers, broke records. So they did MGM did another horror film next year, didn't do very well. And then Jeepers Creepers 2 came out a few years later.
Which one was it?
What?
The
The
one
movie
that came
didn't
out
do very
the
well.
year after.
Do you want me to look?
I can give you a yes or no on whether that was deserved.
Oh, God. There's two here. The Ring or They.
They?
They.
Wes Craven presents They.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. It's not great.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which one is MGM? Oh, here you go. The Weekend for Snoozers. So there's the thing. Over the past 15 years, less than a handful of Labor Day weekend movies have made more than a paltry $20 million. So they're talking about this year's pickings are as slim as ever. The only nationwide release is Fear.com, a horror picture that looks to be...
Fear.com.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's actually kind of fun in a this is really terrible way. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's overshadowed by the other one. Like, that's very similar in the same... What's it called? The Eye or something like that? No, not The Eye.
The Eye.
What's it called? It's like a reality TV horror.
Anyway, they say here,
I think that's also not very good.
is it a bad weekend? Why is it a bad weekend? It said it's a cultural thing. It's the end of summer and people are distracted. Kids are going back to school. Parents have gone shopping for the kids. Everyone's mindset is changing from summer of leisure to time of hitting the books again. Events like movies lose their urgency. They take a back seat. So that's why...
It's like the first bit post-summer then, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
The end of like the blockbuster season and everything.
People are probably, getting back to their work and school and sick of watching movies probably over the...
So this is what... So it
Right.
says... Last year, MGM had the biggest Labor Day hit ever with Jeepers Creepers, a Teens in Jeopardy horror film that took in $15 million in its opening weekend and ended up earning nearly $38 million, but both Labor Day records. So the MGM chief who picked the film's release date says, if you have the picture that primarily appeals to teens, then Labor Day is the right place to take a shot. We needed an easy opening weekend without any real competition to launch the picture. Which I think is just bullshit, to be honest with you. They probably just put it there to die.
Yeah, just rewriting history.
Yeah. And that was the LA Times who came up with that. That was one from back then. So yeah, they basically got dumped there, but it did amazingly well. Then Fear.com or whatever came out the next year, did terribly. Jeepers Creepers 2 did the same. Again, broke loads of box office records.
They released
that weekend.
Jeepers Creepers 2 on Labor Day also.
I think, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Was that just out of tradition at that
Yeah.
point?
Maybe.
A tradition of one film.
Yeah, it is quite crazy though, because there's a lot of people I know not just my parents, but people I know in general that aren't really horror movie fans, don't really watch horror movies, but they watch Jeepers Creepers because they're a similar age to me when it came out
it's
and enjoyed
it's
it.
massive. Yeah.
It is huge.
Yeah.
29th of August 2003, so it was that Labor Day time
weekend,
period, Yeah, it grossed 63.1 million worldwide. So in the end, did Jeepers Creepers 2, so it did really well as well. Yeah, but
I wonder why it took them so long to do the third one.
I wonder. Yeah. And I wonder why it had such a low budget as well. Why wouldn't anybody give Victor Salva the money to make a good
He was
movie?
convicted before the first one.
he was, but it wasn't really known
I don't think
until
the
after
details
2005.
were publicised. Yeah.
Oh, until,
There was
until
like
2005.
2005 or 2006.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
became
right.
public knowledge.
Also, is it possible that like Justin Long and the other actors didn't know at that time then?
Well,
Potentially, but it doesn't matter because that they wouldn't have. Maybe they didn't know. However, I've already alluded to the fact that this release had
When did they record it?
to about 2013.
Oh, right.
As he was making Jeepers Creepers 3, they basically are talking about this.
Oh, right.
On that, they mentioned Jeepers Creepers 3 in the audio commentary, so it was being looked at and written.
it is
during
quite
that time.
interesting, though. I mean, you would think, purely from an objective point of view, if there's people like Justin Long still willing to work with the guy on commentary, there would have been someone in Hollywood that would give him a bigger budget for Jeepers Creepers 3.
Yeah, where's Coppola at this time? Why isn't he giving him money?
Yeah, I don't know.
But apparently, actually, so his conviction became known to the public before. So he was working on a Disney film.
Oh, Jesus.
Like
Powder. It was called Powder.
All the
apparently.
really good guys.
Yeah.
So Salva said when it came out, "This has followed me
Oh
around."
yeah, I've seen Powder. That was the one I was on about before. It's like a fantasy type thing.
So he says, "This has followed me around ever since it happened. But once people meet me, the phantoms go away, and they realise I made a stupid mistake years ago. My past is going to follow me around for as long as people want to talk about it." You know, we're still talking about it in 2024. It's not going anywhere.
It's hard to not talk about.
It is a bit.
Yeah.
You know, even Jeepers Creepers 3 has a character. and
It's a
there's some
victim
dialogue.
of child sexual abuse, isn't it? In the third one.
Yeah. So there is
bad taste.
Yeah.
There is.
I mean,
a
that's only
certain
scratching
thing
the
in
surface of what makes the third one terrible. The
Yeah.
truck has like random
Oh,
chains
God, yeah, it's
coming out of
awful,
it
yeah.
and stuff. It's
Oh, I kind of remember that.
it's
yeah.
really, really.
I only watched
bad.
Isn't it like
Yeah.
booby trapped or something? It's
Yeah,
something like
but
that,
it's somehow got its own sentience though, hasn't it? Like
yeah.
it's somehow
Yeah, I can't remember that.
targeting these chains at specific
Yeah.
people, like cops that are pointing their guns ridiculously
Yeah,
at the truck
yeah.
with nobody in it. Oh, it's bad.
Gotta get that truck.
Yeah, and then the fourth one's just terrible in its own way. Yeah. I urge the audience never to watch them, really.
It's really not good.
Yeah.
However, I still do really love this film. I know I said that I don't really like the second half, and I stand by that, but I don't think it detracts my love for the first half. The fact that I grew up with it as one of my first ever horror movies, the fact that we were kind of around that time as well, like it was quite naturally in our lives, as we just alluded to as well. Maybe one of the first ones that was around our time of coming out. Like it was
Coming out.
Yeah. Jeepers Creepers was the one for me.
Finally opened
I
that
saw the
closet
creeper.
door.
I saw the creeper
Yeah.
and went, "Oh my god,
Converted.
give me
Yeah.
that man!"
Yeah, I remember it being on DVD around
Yeah.
the time I was like looking.
Yeah,
it's
I
on
remember
shelves and-
there's-
To find a
there's-
gay icon.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember it was one of the early ones my parents let me watch, and also it would have been one of those ones that was just on like a friend's DVD.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
whatever.
Everybody seemed to have it. Yeah.
And I've probably watched it before, like in the same way I'd watched Scream and these kind of movies, these like cultural zeitgeist for the mid 2000s horror movies.
So I think-
Child's Play as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
whilst I don't see this, I'm not going to throw this in like my top 5 movies of all time. It kind of sits. It doesn't sit anywhere. It's in kind of no
Yeah.
man's land as a film I love, but I also know it won't ever be the best film ever to me or whatever. But I also just really like it. I can't quite explain the relationship I have with this film. I love the idea of the car sequences and stuff, and that 45 to an hour there is great. I mean, I think what you're saying has somewhat convinced me that it's not quite as terrible as I was saying at the beginning.
Oh, I've done something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of see that, and I'm like, yeah, actually, kind of is creature featurey, X-Filey type.
Yeah,
weird
X-Files
shit
is
happening.
a good comparison because
Yeah.
X-Files has its lighter and its darker toned episodes.
So I can
So
kind
it's-
of.
it's
To be
like
fair,
two
I
of
might
those
have
stitched
preferred it
together.
as like a 40-minute single shot story, or maybe two
Yeah.
X-Files episodes that were
And
two
as a
separate
part two,
stories.
but completely
Yeah,
different.
to be
tone.
fair, that would be
Yeah.
good. You know, like a season later, they bring it back, but they change it quite a bit.
I
That would
actually agree.
that would
probably
be
would have
good.
been
Yeah.
better.
What do you sorry to interrupt, but like, what do you think about the true crime inspiration of the?
I don't know much about it. You should mention that.
Yeah, so it's this guy Dennis Depew,
Yeah.
46 apparently. He murdered his wife in 1990. Because she wanted to get a divorce from him. He was like
Right.
an abusive, terrible person. Basically, he pushed her down the stairs. Like they were arguing, he pushed her down the stairs in front of the kids. So he said to the kids that he was taking her to hospital, and then he drove off.
What was the date? Sorry.
1990.
Oh right. Okay.
So he told the kids he was taking her to hospital, and then cut to later that afternoon. Two siblings, brother and sister, Ray and Marie Thornton, who used to play that license plate game. That came from the true story.
Oh right.
And so they were driving down the street and they saw he got up behind them, was beeping at them aggressively, then overtook them and drove off. And they basically pull off the highway. And I'm just making sure I'm getting this in the right order. No, okay, so so they sorry, I missed a bit. So they before he starts chasing them, they drive past I think it's a school rather than a church, and they see him dumping bloody sheets down a hole, and then he sees that they saw them and he chases them, and then he runs them off the road, and then they decide to circle back round.
So this is all real.
Yeah, this is a real thing that happens.
Okay.
Like brother and sister, real.
Yeah.
They testified this in court, and they put the story on Unsolved Mysteries in 1991. And I shared the segment with you earlier, but if you watch it,
So they cycled back,
and they found that it was the body of the wife. They went
right, but he wasn't caught.
No, he wasn't caught. He went into he went into
never
hiding.
came back.
No.
After he saw that they'd seen him from.
No.
Right.
He disappeared.
Yeah.
And went into hiding, and then it became an episode of Unsolved Mysteries.
Right.
And they reenacted it.
Yeah, I saw.
So there's like a
of
crime
that, and
watch type reenactment.
Yeah. So
but it was very similar from the bit I'd just seen.
The reenactment is very, very like some of the shots are very, very similar. And this ultimately led to him getting caught. Like he changed his name, and he was recognized and got caught eventually.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like Salva's never ever admitted to it.
Right.
And in my opinion, it's irrefutable, and it's a widely held belief.
It looked very similar to me. I don't think it hurts the movie.
well,
in any
no,
way.
See,
and it's interesting that he doesn't want to admit it.
It is interesting.
But
because in my opinion, own it. I have no problem with that. Like you take inspiration for things all the time. It doesn't have to be another film. It can be a true crime story. I mean, what about like Ed Gein influencing Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff?
yeah,
that's totally fine. It's totally fine.
Or as I said earlier about Tarantino basically ripping off a number of movies for a lot of things.
That's how
especially in
art
Kill
works,
Bill.
right? You get influenced by things. And I kind of love the idea of him him watching this episode, and he's already had this idea,
bringing it to life with a bigger budget.
Yeah, but he's he wants to make a monster film. That's his goal. But then he's just watching TV and he sees this episode and he's like, wow, this is a cool like premise for the start of a film. And then to like combine those,
take that and
to just shove them together. And I love that idea, but I find it really strange.
Maybe
really strange that he's never admitted it.
This is the early 90s, right? So he's convicted in 1988 in that time frame. He's doing what he's done there. And then there's this whole part of his life there that he probably doesn't want to go to. Like, there's a blanking out of that part of his life, most probably, and stuff. So I can imagine it mixes in with his conviction and him being in jail. So
there's also the possibility of, there's a lot of times, I can't pull any examples right now, but there are times when people have seen a movie or been influenced by a song or whatever in whatever creative art they're creating, and it happens more often in music.
When you don't realize,
and they'll put together a riff or like,
Yeah.
you know, sing a song and a couple of lines are exactly the same as something you've heard before.
Yeah,
but
okay, well, yeah, but the thing is
that you've heard that, and
here's the thing though, because you said that he acknowledged that he basically remade Jewel.
He did, but after the fact, subconsciously.
Precisely. And for his entire career, he's been asked this question.
But maybe he just legitimately doesn't remember, and so doesn't want to say.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think if he did, he should own it.
Yeah, I think so. Because in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with doing that.
And
like
it
I say,
should give credit to the makers of that episode, right?
I think so. Yeah,
it's bizarre. Honestly, it sounds like it would have been. Like, would it more so be the story of it though, rather than the documentary and the reenactment? Who's to say he saw the reenactment? You
can watch it. Like,
it is very similar to the bit I saw.
Like similarities, and that doesn't.
But he didn't do all the visual stuff.
No. It doesn't invalidate. Yeah, but
the
like
cinematographer, he
storyboarded it and he came up with the concepts, right? Like, and he was not single-handedly in charge, but like definitely a creative force behind the way it looks, even if he's not the main one. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem taking influences from whatever you want.
I think
that's how things
fair
work.
Use, and it's totally fine for that, and it doesn't hurt the movie.
No, it's just a bizarre thing.
It is interesting that it doesn't acknowledge it, but I think it's also explainable that maybe he just doesn't have a recollection of seeing it.
It's also very difficult to gauge.
It's in his possible mind's eye as he's making a movie.
It's hard to gauge if he's being honest or not, due to his past and stuff. There's so many. He's an odd man, right? There's nothing normal.
No,
really within him.
there's thousands of reasons, but there's just some details, like the brother sister. And
does that bother you? Is it?
I've softened on it quite a bit, like
because I know you get bothered by things like this.
I think you brought it up as a complaint when we were talking about when somehow we got on the Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, because we were talking about overrated films, and I just happened to know about this at that time.
Yeah,
because the first act gets so lauded, that even people that don't even like the rest of the film, they really like that first act. And I think to like crib so much from another medium and then not admit to it, I think is not good.
If that is the case.
Well, I mean, it's all alleged, but like really, really similar. Like the brother sister detail, the license plate thing, and the visual work of that. It's very similar. Like, I mean,
yeah.
But it gets very difficult, and where do you draw the line at influence, right? Because there's a lot of Friday the 13th movies where they have iconic kills. And I've seen slasher movies predating those Friday the 13th movies with kind of the exact same kills. Was that mutual invention? Did that person that came up with the idea of that kill watch that? Is it stealing to use it again?
And you can look at things...
It's all
you can look at music in the same way. Yeah. There's this wave of suing people and musicians now when something sounds similar to something else, and it's become like a bad thing to do that. If you look back to the 60s, a lot of bands were borrowing each other's chords all the time and the songs covering things and not giving any credit to anyone about doing that.
Or if you go to the late 80s, early 90s, when dance music and hip-hop music were sampling all over the place from vinyl records that they just happened to have access to.
Yeah, but like to like imply that these samples weren't legally cleared is not true, right?
But also, but then you've got someone like the Rolling...
They definitely weren't when they were released independently.
Then you got like someone like the Rolling Stones, whose biggest influence was black music from like the 40s and 50s, blues. They never specifically said like who they were influenced by and why they were influenced by them.
Yeah, same with Elvis.
Yeah, exactly. Does that detract from their legendary status? Does that take away from what they were able to mold, or is it a building of using the groundwork that was laid? Now, obviously, there's a racial element to that too. That's not quite as cut and dry. And the fact that a white man was able to have a black man's voice in the case of Elvis, and
I think it's incredibly case by case.
Yeah,
you can't draw a general rule.
But the Stones are less like that, I guess. But they're heavily influenced by that Black American culture and blues.
Yeah, I mean, you could even bring it to Eminem, right? And Vanilla Ice, and
Yeah.
the fact that a lot of white rappers in the 90s, not Eminem, but other white rappers in the 90s got famous purely because of the colour of their skin, and the fact that the studios thought they were backable because of that, even though they were basically taking music from others.
It's all insane, but does it detract from
Again,
what
case
they
by
did?
case, and I think in this case, it doesn't. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, like that opening act is so much better than the rest of the film. That
Yeah, but is
I don't think it's that much better. I don't think.
but is the original Unsolved Mysteries
no, like
version better?
no,
'Cause it's not.
no, it's not. No,
Yeah.
of course it's not. Like, I mean, it's a different like medium altogether. But it's the blueprint for that first act. Like, it's the bullet points.
But then the blueprint for the second act is the
Is
50-foot woman or something. It's like the continuation of something else. Just so happens that he liked creature features and he liked Hammer films and like monster films.
I mean, the blueprint for a lot of Dracula adaptations is traced back to Dracula 1931 or Nosferatu, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't necessarily mean they owe them any money or credit or anything. They're influenced by those things.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I mean, well, I don't think it detracts from the art at all. I think the credit, in my opinion, should be given.
If though this is
But are they
still a very
seeking
if.
credit though? These,
Yeah.
No,
that changes. a
No,
lot of things.
probably not. To be honest,
It's all alleged.
it is all alleged.
Because if
Yeah.
they were seeking credit, then by all means they should have credit. But I haven't heard that anyone's fighting any.
No, I
fight
don't.
to
I
get
don't think so.
themselves.
I don't think so. I mean, it's technically like an internet theory, right? Nothing is really
Yeah.
confirmed.
But it's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Interesting to raise.
Yeah.
Since, reflecting on this, and I didn't know about that. I'll have to watch it and see what. Probably by the sounds of it, sounds pretty similar, but you just never know. I mean, the amount of times that the O.J. Simpson chase has been either used in other films or like the way it's used or parodied. It happens all the time, that. But that,
I mean, as
obviously
it's
is
a
real
true
footage.
crime reproduction, it makes it even more complicated, right?
Does.
Because you can take lots of people take historical events and insert them into their movies, or iconic bits of news reporting and take them into the ethos of their movie, even shoot them exactly the same with no credit. It's I don't know. It's interesting.
All right, then let's wrap this thing
We'll
up.
have to ask a bird lawyer. What
Yeah. Final thoughts then, Dave, from you about Jeepers Creepers.
I like it. It's
Ooh.
well.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that.
That's
No,
different.
well, okay, it's okay. It's
No.
It's
You
okay.
can't
It's on
go
the
back.
record. We heard it.
Yeah. We're cutting the rest of this out.
No.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's
We're
the
going
end
to
of
dub
it.
it
No.
over, so he said it again.
Going into the credits. Credits. I like it.
It never. I would probably prefer it as a short film.
You
Or
mean
as
just erasing the second half?
yeah, or as I said a few minutes ago about it being 2 episodes in X-Files, I kind of like that idea. I do find the true crime influence in the first act interesting. I don't think it detracts from the art at all.
Do you not think it would be stronger if, like I said, it had a more out there kind of campy ending, so there wasn't a second tonal shift right at the end?
Wait, what are you saying? That
So the ending didn't go serious again; it continued the campy ethos, and therefore it was a slow transition to complete.
would I prefer that?
Yeah, would that not fix the movie for you?
No, I don't think so.
You just don't want the campy
But-
flips and so on.
Yeah, it loses me around the midpoint, honestly. And by the time the climactic, like the assault on the police station happens, I've lost interest. Like I really like the first half and really get nothing out of the second half. I do think, like on average, it's good. Like mainly elevated by that first act. I do still think it's overrated, but that's only because
I don't think it's like.
I don't think it's overrated.
Ridiculously lauded by.
I don't think anyone goes, this is the most incredible film ever.
Other than us two.
I think
don't know whether-
a lot of people our age have exactly the same opinion. Like they call it like a horror classic. I've seen that.
Yeah, but it is a horror classic.
It doesn't mean it's one of the best of all time.
It's a horror classic means many different things. To me, it's like, oh yeah, I could go back to this and watch it again. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best film ever. I like going back and watching fucking Curse of Michael Myers. Doesn't mean I think it's it's a classic, but it's not a very, lauded one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, people like put it on the same pedestal as
but that's fair enough. That's just their opinion, is it not?
And I would not say it's on a pedestal with whatever you're going to.
Yeah, what were you going to say? With
well, like the big ones, like
it's not
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, definitely not. I think that's somewhat.
Well, even the fact that we put it on a slasher movie list about
but I
Alien.
put it on there just to fuck with you.
Well, okay, fine, but
yeah.
But
it is a distinctive killer. It's not up there in terms of the film quality.
We weren't
but in terms
going
of
by films.
In terms of distinctive killers, I think it belongs on that list.
Because you yourself said during that Ghostface, you mark Ghostface down, but you would have marked the Scream franchise up.
Yeah.
So you've distinguished that too.
The strength of the movies doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that, but like, I don't think he's that good. If he stayed as he was in the first act, as a looking like the Undertaker and sniffing clothes. Hell yeah.
Yeah, but I would argue that he's quite distinctive and there's not much else around.
If anything, it makes him more unique, the fact that he is a creature and he's got wings.
No,
I quite like that.
It does. Yeah. No, it does make him...
In modern horror cinema, there isn't a lot to analogize that.
No, I agree. It does make him more unique. It pushes him further away from my personal taste.
Yeah,
that's what it is. That's what it is.
But that's why he stands out as a killer.
But I would argue that he potentially really does deserve to be on a top 10 slasher villains list. I could argue that what we did in that, and he just about made it on, is arguable. He's more distinctive than Jason is, because Jason is a carbon copy of Michael Myers.
I don't agree with that, actually, and I strongly disagree that he should be above Jason. That's ridiculous.
I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying that
I think he should be recognized, but I also don't think he's more distinctive.
Maybe an honourable mention.
I mean,
sure.
I can understand what you're saying about.
But I'm talking about Jason from number 2 here. Right?
Oh well, before the hockey mask and machete, then Jason.
Because there was a lot
Jason
of work up to Jason.
So, yeah.
And I mean, Jason has become more distinguished and better over time. When the films got worse, Jason got better.
Yeah. Friday the number 6 is really good.
Yeah. Anyway,
Six is the
get
best
off that one.
We're going way off topic.
All I'm trying to say is that the Creeper is like a good slasher killer. Like there's nothing wrong with that, and it could be argued that he really does deserve to be in that top 10 of slasher killers.
Okay, Yeah. Okay. Sure. I would agree that I would say that he as a character elevates the film, and I would rank him as a character higher than I would rank the film as a film. I still wouldn't put him in like the top of slasher killers. I do agree that he, in my opinion, like I say, I prefer his kind of first incarnation when he looks like the Undertaker. But I do agree with you that when he becomes a monster, like there is nothing else like him. I mean, there are elements of like Predator in it and a few other things, but it's definitely its own distinct
influence.
Thing. Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean,
definitely its own thing.
The strongest influence is the one bit I don't like with the Predator fold out. But if we take that away,
that looks pretty cool.
Fair enough.
More than
that's
the wings.
What they were going for. Yeah. But if we take that out of it, for me, his uniqueness drives.
But he looks a lot like what is it, the creature from the Black Lagoon, or
I mean, a little bit. I mean, it's very clearly a man in a suit, and he's green, and he's got gills, and he's a fish.
Yeah.
In the 50s one.
Yeah.
But and he doesn't have wings, so there's a lot of differences.
No, sure.
But it facially a little bit with the frills. There's a frill stuff going on in his chin. So there's influences there, but I don't think it's any.
No, I mean it's all the same, but
similarity. Yeah.
Right, Mike. Yep. Let's get your final thoughts.
I mean, same as the start, really. I think it's great all the way through, apart from maybe the last 10 minutes. Apart from the last 10 minutes, apart from the very last bit with the looking through the eyes. I think it loses its tone a little bit when it flips back to serious. But other than that, I think it's great. It's really good straight horror up until the diner. Then it's really fun creature feature, hammy kind of set piece after set piece after that point. Entertaining time. Yeah. Like it.
The last thing I've got to mention about the tonal shift thing is that the emotional thing, Francis Ford Coppola was like a big factor in that again. He was very involved in well, you can have an emotional ending if you can't have the budget, because they were like 2 million over budget before it began. So they had to get rid of that scene. And he was like, yeah, you got the emotional bit. And then the bit at the end in the old warehouse, they had to refilm that because Coppola watched it and went, what are you actually trying to say here? What are you trying to do? So he had a big part into play in lots of these pivotal moments which came about.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on with it. Anyway, just thought, because I've forgotten that before you mentioned that.
I mean, I've got nothing wrong with the skeleton of the ending. It's just the way it tonally whiplashes you. If it maintains somehow the tone of when it becomes this like unstoppable creature coming after him, but at the same time it preserved the sister trying to save the brother, I'd be fine with that. Yeah.
All right then. There we go.
And how about you?
I've already done mine.
I have.
Yeah.
Before you started on the,
we went on a whole.
You started on that tangent of the unsolved mystery.
Yeah.
Because I was wrapping it up before you went there.
Longest epilogue.
Yeah. So I said my piece. And I think I just really like this film. It doesn't really sit anywhere within a top 10 or not. It just kind of
it's
very
agree.
floaty.
I agree. It's just good.
Yeah, and it's the same as the Creeper, to be
great.
honest. He floats around my vicinity of slasher killers. I wouldn't really put him high, but
it's an 8 out of 10 for me, which is my cut off of like, this is great, but it's not on the the pantheon of 9s and 10s. Yeah.
But I really enjoy this film, and it has a huge influence over my my sort of early horror watching. I think maybe we can all say something similar to that effect, like we did at the beginning with Joyride and stuff. All right. So, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Bringing very interesting points all around. Enjoying very much. And maybe you have an interesting point as well. So, if you'd like to get involved, comment. Join our Discord server as well. There's a big QR code on Mike's face right now.
Click here or scan here. Yeah.
I can't see your hand if the code's there.
Yeah, but I can see my arm, man. It's all good.
We'll see you soon for more creeper-related content. No, just maybe not creeper-related content.
Creepers.
Is this stabbing the creeper?
Yeah.
A creep in the dark.
All that.
Creep in the dark. Great work, Mike. Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.